Okay, calm down. You got rivers, man. You got rivers, man. Okay, calm down.
Hello and welcome to the Katie Halper Show. We are so excited to be joined by you today, and we have a really amazing show. It is a tripartite show, if I do say so myself. I don't think I've ever said that. We have three wonderful guests. First, we're going to be joined by Chris Smalls, the founder of the Amazon Labor Union, who was on the Freedom Flotilla Handala boat going to Gaza and was, of course, intercepted and arrested and kidnapped and singled out and beaten. And we're going to get into that when we talk to Chris. And then we're going to be speaking to Greg Stoker, who is a former Army Ranger, and he's been on the show before, and he's an anti-war vet. And we are going to be speaking to someone who I know we've talked about before. We've shown videos of him before, so we're really honored to be having him on the show. Anthony Aguilar, a U.S. military veteran who worked with the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation as a security contractor. He didn't work for them, though. And he witnessed U.S. mercenaries and IDF members shooting and killing starving Palestinians as they waited for aid. So we're really very much looking forward to talking to all three of these guests. Before I start, I do want to, of course, urge everyone watching to please like the stream. It's a way to support the show, help with the algorithm. There's a lot of suppression, especially when you talk to people like the guests that we're talking to today. And you just give that a thumbs up. Also, please subscribe. We are almost at 350,000 subscribers, which is great. And to do that, you press subscribe and then the bell, and that way you never miss any streams that we're doing. And that's also really important because sometimes we do on like streams that aren't our regular Tuesday night time, and that way you'll make sure that you are aware of those. And if you can become Patreon supporters, that is how this show happens. We literally could not do the show without your Patreon support. And to do that, you just go to patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Again, that's patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. And if you can afford $1 a month, that's $12 a year, then you just get to sleep well knowing that you are supporting the show and helping it happen. And if you can afford $5 a month, then you get extra content, extended interviews, early release, bonus interviews, and it's a great time. So we also, by the way, are playing a part of an interview that I did with Lily Call Greenberg, who was the first and only Jewish appointee of Joe Biden to resign over the Gaza genocide. And she is going to be talking about getting we interviewed her yesterday before she took part in an action with If Not Now. When she got arrested, they were protesting the Gaza genocide, the starvation campaign. And so we're going to play part of that interview. And I think that's all the announcements I have to make. And again, very excited to be speaking with such brave guests today. So we're going to bring on Chris Smalls, the founder of Amazon's first labor union, the Amazon Labor Union. And he's going to talk to us about his experience on the Gaza Freedom Flotilla. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much for joining.
Absolutely.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm getting my appetite back after the hunger strike and just trying to get back on my feet.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna talk about what happened to you and the 21 people on this boat. But before we do that, we're going to play a video of the IOF, the Israeli Occupation Forces. I noticed, by the way, during an ABC interview, you called them the IOF. They're obviously usually called the IDF. And someone commented to me how cool it was that you weren't corrected on that. It wouldn't have been a correction. It would have been a propagandistic correction. And then I pointed out that they probably just don't know what that is, honestly. They don't know what that means, the IOF. Okay, so here is a video of the IOF, and I'm going to go off screen, Brad, because I have to put my little dog behind something. So here is the video.
No one will hold any weapon
Okay, so tell us about what unfolded there. But before you do that, actually, just set up what you were doing, why you decided to join the Handala ship, which is part of the Gaza Freedom Flotilla, what your aims were, and then we're going to talk about what happened to you guys.
Well, yeah, as you mentioned, as an American labor leader who founded the first union for Amazon workers, and as an American taxpaying citizen, um, this mission was inspiring because of the mad lean with Greta Thunberg. Of course, some of my comrades that I met around the world in my journeys was on the last ship, and I was paying attention like everybody else. And when I got the phone call that I had the opportunity to go, I had 24 hours to make the decision. So I had that conversation with my kids, and I said, you know what, I'm going because of my kids. I don't want them to grow up in the world that we're living in now, where once again this genocide has killed tens of thousands of children, innocent children. And once again, the reason why I really want to go is because U.S. labor unions have been very complicit in participating in this genocide, shipping arms to Israel every 15 hours for the last 21 months. That's the longshoremen, and the AFL-CIO and others haven't passed zero resolutions since October 7th. So they're blatantly ignoring it. And then I read an article somewhere where they even said that the Palestinian movement is outside the scope of labor, which is ridiculous. It's just unheard of for them to say some things like this when they claim to stand on the side of the working class. So for a number of reasons why I went, but also to connect the dots between Amazon, AWS Web Services is the Iron Dome. It is Israel's military industrial intelligence. So all of this struggles are connected, and especially the Palestinian liberation movement was built out of resistance with trade unions since the first Nakba.
Hmm. Yeah, can you talk about that? What you mean by that? How this is a working class issue, this is a labor issue, and the role of labor unions both within Palestine and here, when applicable.
Once again, I mean, since the first Nakba, trade unions has been a part of the resistance, and I've been privileged enough to meet some of the trade union presidents that's based in Palestine and based in Jerusalem. My sister Susan Salam, who I met in Greece, me and her last year we participated in a festival there where we met some of the trade unionists that y'all may have seen shut down the docks as Israel tried to bring shipments into Greece ports last week. Those are my brothers and sisters around the world, and the trade union movement has been actually providing humanitarian aid to the Palestinians way before any of the organizations existed. So it's hand in hand. The Palestinian people are very much trade unionists and they're very much working class, just like Americans. And we cannot say that Palestinian lives don't matter and they're outside the scope of labor when we're supposed to be the shield for the working class. So, for any trade unionists out there that say that an injury to one is an injury to all,
Yes.
we have to live and preach, and not only practice that preach, we have to stand by it, and that's exactly what I'm trying to do here.
Yeah, exactly. It's not an injury to one is an injury to all within certain borders, right? It's an injury to one is an injury to all around the world. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And do you think that you've raised the consciousness among any labor organizers, or whether that's rank and file people or people high up in unions?
Well, you know what? There's no way in hell I can sit here and say that they wasn't paying attention or didn't hear about it. So I think I raised awareness of how silence is really deafening. And I think a lot of people notice that. And it's a shame that, they're sitting here trying to ignore it as if they didn't happen at all, when I'm pretty sure that they definitely are well aware of the situation. And most of these unions, when I won and made history, they all invited me into their homes. Whether I was a keynote at one of their conventions or a panelist or some way, some form, somewhere we met along the lines. They all did. They all gravitated to me at one point. So it's ironic that they're very silent right now. But this is something for the working class to call out and hold them accountable for as well.
Right. And also another thing to remember is that the first Intifada, especially, was very driven by labor union activism and organizing. And, of course, people love to claim that Intifada is like a call for terrorism, but it means just literally a shaking off. And there have been nonviolent intifadas. There have been violent intifadas. You know that there's nothing inherently violent about that term, but it's worth remembering. So, before we get into what happened with the Handala, I realize that, I mean, a lot of people know your story, but can you just give a short summary of how you became a labor organizer and what you achieved through organizing against Amazon?
Yeah, sure. 5 years ago, I was fired from Amazon when I was the COVID-19 whistleblower in New York City. Um, a lot of people may remember that. And then I started a nonprofit called the Congress of Essential Workers. I traveled to every Jeff Bezos mansion that we could find from the East Coast to the West Coast, protesting in front of his house, bringing many different organizations together for about a year and a half. And then in 2021, I founded the Amazon Labor Union. We started our campaign, and it was about 11 months. Over 300 days, I posted up an encampment right outside the building that fired me. And on April 1st of 2022, we became the first union in American history for Amazon workers, representing Staten Island, over 8,300 members.
Wow. So, you definitely faced some practice challenges and obstacles. We'll get into that later, but I think maybe Amazon helped prepare you for this, because they did things to you that were pretty horrible, ranging from trying to smear you. They said really racist things about you. So I guess we can thank them, right, for setting you up for a much more powerful, in some ways, adversary, which is the IDF. Much more brutal, I should say, violent, right?
Yeah, I mean, it ain't my first rodeo with being in handcuffs.
Right. Yes. So, can you tell us about what the Handala was trying to achieve and what you were trying to bring to Gaza?
Well, the goal is to break the illegal siege on that Israel has imposed. It was never to deliver aid. That's what people have to understand. We didn't have enough aid to feed a fraction of Gaza, a very small amount. But the goal is always to break the illegal siege that Israel has imposed for over 2 decades. This was mission number 37. They've been doing this missions since 2008, and only 5 out of the 37 boats ever made it to Gaza. But their goal is to continue sending boat after boat, ship after ship, until we break the illegal siege of that Israel has imposed. And that's what we were trying to do here. And on our boat, we had medical supplies, we had baby formula, baby diapers, women care products, prosthetic parts for the kids, and of course, plenty of food and water. But most importantly, we had hope. Hope for the people of Gaza that we're not going to give up.
Yeah. And tell us what happened to you on the ship. What happened during that interception, and then what they did to you after they intercepted it.
Well, as everybody saw in the live stream, they cut the communications across. They don't across the Wi-Fi networks, and they pulled down all the cameras. They don't want anybody to see what they're about to do, which is pretty much take over the ship, have us sit on the deck, and pretty much detained. And we can't really. It's really uncomfortable. We already have 21 passengers, and we already had to scrunch up on the deck, and basically all night they babysit us or guarded us, while they were swapping soldiers in and out throughout the night. um and we were accompanied by them for about 12 hours, I believe, until we arrived to the port of Ashad in Israel. Once again, our intentions was never to go to Israel, so it wasn't illegal kidnapping or international water. Against our will, we were on our way to Gaza, and actually our destination was set for Egypt, where we was going to dock for the night. But anyway, yeah, during the time, they just pretty much guarded us throughout the night. um, then they handed us over to the immigration port authorities, and that's when the violent attack took place on myself. Pretty much, they were calling us off one by one, or country by country. They left the Americans for last. I was one of the last to get off the boat, and when we were getting off, they had a bunch of camera crew, our journalists, our people that were taking pictures in our face. And I put my hands up and I gave them a piece of my mouth, saying that I don't want to consent to any of these photos. And that's when they called over the 7 guards, and they threw me to the ground. face first. They put their knee in my back. They twisted my arms behind my back, and three on each side. They levitated me while one of them was pulling my hair and my chains back, choking me to the point where I couldn't breathe, and telling me to shut up repeatedly. And then they threw me back on the ground. They picked me up one more time, and then they brought me into a separate room and threw me against the wall, face first. And then they started whispering a bunch of racist remarks, saying that they're nowhere near my brother and stuff like that. And then they guarded me for about, I mean, pretty much the entire time, with five guards. I was isolated from the rest of the crew. They were in the next room throughout the whole processing area. I couldn't even meet up with the rest of them at any point in time. They had me heavily guarded.
What did they say to you? What were some of the things that they said to you, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, no, one of them was just saying that I'm nowhere near your brother or something like that in my ear. Like he was pretty much saying that, he hates people of color.
Right.
That's the way I took it. And they were telling me to shut up when I was saying, like, free Palestine. They were telling me to shut up or they're gonna throw me on the ground. But I said this in other interviews, but I've never felt any type of I've never felt that amount of hatred and racism in my entire life, over here in 37 years in America, the way I felt over there. It's a different level, and nobody can tell me otherwise. There's no way Palestinians can live in peace amongst people like that. They have such a hatred that I've never felt before.
The Israelis have such a hatred, you mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
not the
Yeah.
Palestinians, right? Yeah. Yeah, it's incredible. Did you anticipate being singled out? Because you were singled out. You were abused physically in ways that others weren't, right? So is this something that you kind of expected?
Of course. I mean, of course. I mean, I knew what I signed myself up for, and on top of that, there's a history behind it. Everybody knows that, and as the only black man on board, I mean, obviously, I was amongst the most vulnerable, but there were other vulnerable people. My Tunisian brother, who also stayed in prison with me the last day, Hatem he's an Arab, and they definitely despise him as well. But once again, I think it was a little bit more. They wanted to be a little bit more harsh on me to send a message, a strong message, for
Right.
sure, and it didn't work.
Yeah. So yeah, you and the your fellow organizer, your fellow passenger who was from Tunisia, you were the last two released, is that correct?
Yeah, we were the last ones released. We're the only ones that were pretty much of color. So
Right.
yeah.
Oh. And so you did you get contacted? Did you or any of your fellow American passengers get contacted by any American government officials? Did they try and help you in any way, either while you were abducted by the IDF, while you were in custody, or after you were released?
No.
All right. I thought, well, what is it that Biden said? If you harm an American, there will be consequences. We'll respond. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I called the consulate. The consulate said he promises that his job is to make sure I'm safe. I'm like, well, you failed on that already. I
Yeah.
already been assaulted. But that was the first and last time I heard from him, and that was at the port when we first got detained. And then they never showed up. The embassy, nobody showed up for it. Everybody else, all the other countries showed up in person. The embassy, the
Wow.
consulate showed up for them, but not America.
Oh, wow. I thought so much for the America first. Not that that's my politics, but it's just funny because that's, of course, what Trump claims to be and what a lot of his supporters claim to be. So much for that, right? America second, maybe after Israel.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I mean, they even had a State Department spokeswoman, Tammy Bruce, said something like America is the best country in the world next to Israel. Just so embarrassing. So, I mean, we've seen these vicious attacks on Palestinians, lethal attacks. I mean, murders, lynchings, obviously starvation, bombings, torture, rape. There's nothing that the IDF won't do. And also in 2010, of course, aboard the there was a flotilla raid in 2010.
Marvel, yes.
Yeah, exactly. On the Turkish ship and 10 people were killed. 30 were wounded. Did you have any fear that you would be not just assaulted, but actually killed?
Well, yeah, they tried to kill us. I mean, of course, they tried to kill us. They sent a tank of acid to our boat in Italy, and that wasn't a coincidence. You know, you can have one, but there was multiple coincidences that day that didn't add up. And of course, you know, we can only assume it was them. You know, we were supposed to be delivered a fresh tank of water to pump into our boat, and we got sulfuric acid where it could have killed us by being in our cooking food, our water, our corroding our pipes, whatever. And that's exactly was a sign because they announced it on their national news a week prior that they're going to try to do everything in their power to stop the Handala from leaving the port of Italy. So no surprise there, and yeah, we were punished for being on a hunger strike for sure. They were trying to, you know, kill us, whether it was mentally or psychologically as well.
Right. And can you talk more about the acid and how you discovered that?
Well, thankfully, you know, one of our crew members noticed it last second while it was being pumped into our boat. It was right there, clear as day on the label, and some of it splashed on one of the crew members' legs. It burned her, and that's when we realized that it wasn't water, and it was about to be pumped into our water tank right before we were setting sail.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, because you ordered a water truck, right? So that you could fill the tanks of the ship and the water tanks with water that you could drink. Um, because you were going to have like a week long sailing, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, so they were trying to make sure that you had sulfuric acid. So
Oh yeah.
disgusting.
Yeah.
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 And then there were other attempts of sabotage, right? There was a rope that was like tightly wound around the propeller of the ship.
Yes. At around one of the rotors, we discovered that as well, and the type of rope it wasn't something that um you just find in the water. It was some
Right.
nylon heavy rope that is meant to hold things down.
Right. Like it wasn't an accidental thing that can happen sometimes on ships. It
Yeah.
was, yeah, different kind. Yeah. So you are a father. You mentioned that part of your motivation for going on this and for being a Palestine solidarity activist was making the world a better place for your children and for other children. Now, did you have to have a talk with your children that you were going on a mission that was dangerous? How did you talk about it with your friends and family and loved ones?
Yeah, I had a brief conversation with my kids. I didn't want to scare them too much because you know, I didn't want them to even think the fact that their father could be, you know, killed and never brought back to them. So I did have a conversation with them the night before I left, and it was just more of the lines, you know, that no matter what, I love them, and you know, I'm going to do something that's pretty dangerous, but I'll be okay, and just made sure ensure that I'll be okay. And yeah, you know, my kids they're still kids. They're not really openly worldly yet. So to them, they have their social media. They definitely were paying attention. And you know, they were the first people I FaceTime when I got back home.
Right. So you were intercepted, arrested, and beaten for trying to get teddy bears into Gaza, among other things, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, once again, the goal is always to break the siege, but unfortunately, Israel doesn't even want to bolt of stuffed animals and prosthetic parts and medical supplies to enter. So yeah.
What were the conditions like in the prison? Because I know that you went through some interesting health issues.
Yeah, very inhumane, you know, because of the hunger strike. Once again, we were subjected to basically solitary confinement where we were on 24-hour lockdown. We didn't have any yard time. It was seven of us in one hot cell. The oxygen level was very poor. Um, the bed bugs, it was bed bugs written. It contracted scabies from that. Um, and yeah, you know, we were raided twice. We were raided twice by the raid squad for no reason, humiliated. We had to strip our clothes naked. Um, and the guards were very mean and nasty. They definitely said some derogatory things in Hebrew. They definitely were calling us all types of racist names. And even one point in time they were like singing, one of the racist songs that they sing. And I just felt it. I felt the evilness, I felt the hatred. Every time they came around, it was just like a dark energy. And the most thing that really stood out to me was they tried to isolate us from the other prisoners, but even I was able to walk through one time and I saw that they had a lot of Africans and Ethiopians locked up as well. So it's just this systemic racism, and from the top down, and I felt it every moment I was there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Israel has they're equal opportunity, right? They're racist against Palestinians. They're racist against Africans. They're racist against Black Americans. They have done terrible things to Ethiopian people. They've sterilized them. And then obviously we're seeing what they're doing to Palestinians every day and live streaming it. And their hatred and racism is on display, not just in what they're doing, but obviously in the fact that they think it's appropriate to live stream it. I mean, they do sadistic things, which is bad enough, but then they do sadistic things that they think is okay to record.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I
so
mean, they had cameras. They had cameras on us every step of the way, from the moment we got off the boat to the moment of processing to the even in prison. They brought cameras in the room every time. So they well documented the entire captivity of us, and I encourage them to release that footage. I'm
yeah,
I'm just I'm waiting for the pictures of me. They claim that I was the violent one and this that. I encourage them. I even dare them, triple dare them to release the footage so everybody can really see the truth, and it will be shocking. It will be jaw dropping.
yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously, these people, if they had anything remotely incriminating of you, they would be releasing it. They would have released it like yesterday, the second it happened.
They had
Amazing.
they had a plenty of propaganda for Greta Thunberg in them,
Yeah, right,
but for this one, for some reason, it's just been sealed tight. But
right,
I know the reason why.
yeah. Um, what do you mean? What do you think the reason is?
Oh, I mean, once again, it will destroy all their credibility in
Right.
their propaganda
Yeah,
instantly. The
yeah.
hunger strike alone was so infuriating for them because they couldn't use the sandwiches and water against us.
Right, right, right. So yeah, so
So they
yeah,
punished us for it. They punished us. They kept us in. All of us that went to prison were kept in 24-hour lockdown. We only saw the light of day when we had to go see our lawyers, which was only twice.
and so when did you start the hunger strike?
Immediately, as
Like
soon as
what?
we
As
soon
soon
as
as
the
you were,
IOF
yeah,
jumped on board, we started prior to that. We haven't ate like probably half the day we went without
right,
eating. We didn't cook any dinner or anything like that.
right. And of course, part of that is speaks to the disgusting Israeli Hasbara and propaganda, right? Where they took photos of people eating sandwiches. Not everyone did, but handing out sandwiches, eating sandwiches to show how benevolent and generous they were. The IOF. They treat people so well. So that I assume is one of the reasons. And there've also been a lot of solidaristic hunger strikes. But did you guys talk about the hunger strike as something that you were doing in solidarity, as something that you did to kind of prevent their manipulating you as photo ops?
Yeah, both. I
Yeah,
mean, obviously we went on hunger strike for multiple reasons, especially because the children in Gaza, the people in Gaza can't eat, and neither will we, especially while we're in Israel and their captivity. We wasn't going to have any of that food, and they knew it. They announced it when they captured the boat. They said, we understand you guys are on the hunger strike, but they still brought mountains of sandwiches and water, just to try to weaponize it against us. They kept asking us every 10 minutes. And it was like, no, we're not gonna fold. And that was something that the group decided way before we got intercepted.
right. As an organizer who has taken on Amazon, what advice do you have for future flotillas? Because it's also worth noting that they're organizing another flotilla. I had Huwaida Araf on, Aaron Mate and I interviewed Huwaida and Bob Suberi last week on Useful Idiots. They're already plotting and scheming in a good way, another flotilla. What advice do you have as an organizer about the flotilla, and also more generally about people who want to organize around Palestine?
Well, for one, I got a lot of people that reached out to me about, oh, I want to get on the next flotilla. I'm gonna tell you guys right now, half of y'all, more than half of y'all, won't make it. You know, like people think it's a joyride, or they think it's something that they can do easily. If you're not mentally prepared, um, you will not make it past training. I tell you that right now. And if you're not prepared to put your life on the line, you're not going to make it. And it's not for everybody. And I don't encourage any of my comrades to even want to do it, because we shouldn't have to. And that's the real reason. Like, this is not something that's fun. This is extremely dangerous. You know, one mistake can cost you and your whole crew your lives. You're floating on a graveyard with millions of bodies for a week, and people think that they can just sign up and jump on board and do this. I highly doubt that. And I'll tell you now, um, this was only a week and a half, but it was the longest week and a half of my entire life. And I can tell you now that when you go to prison, um, your life is not in your hands anymore. You're not in your control. So, especially in Israel, an apartheid state. So, I just don't. I don't want to put it out there to discourage people, but I don't sugarcoat anything. I'm telling
Mhm.
people that, you know, this may not be for you, and that's fine. You have your own role to play in the Palestinian movement. Stay in your way, stay in your lane, whatever works for you and your activism. But just because you've seen somebody else do it doesn't mean that you can.
Mm. And how did the morale seem of the idea of the IOF, by the way? Did they seem like at all like defeated, or do they seem like they're gung ho?
IOF, they
Yeah,
are a bunch of young kids. That's even more shocking. That the average age was probably 21, and
yeah.
they look like babies. And honestly, I was ashamed. I cursed them out. I said, without them weapons and guns, you guys are nothing to their face. They're a bunch of killing machine kids that unplug incubators. They think what they're doing is notable. They're playing some type of real time Call of Duty video game, but it's a shame to see that that they are actually stopping humanitarian aid, and that they thinking they're doing something good. And a lot of them are honestly probably scared little people, because they couldn't even look me in my face. A lot of them, I tried to connect, and there's nothing there. They're soulless and they're evil and they're killing machines.
Did it give you a new understanding of what the people of Palestine are experiencing? Obviously, you have protections that even as a Black American, you still have protections that the people in Palestine don't have, just as, you know, virtue of being Palestinian. Did it, and obviously you were aware of the murder, terrorism, dehumanization that they face, but was there something like you understood viscerally from being there that you didn't understand before?
No, I don't think I would ever understand.
Mm,
I don't think any of us would, because what I experienced, even how bad it was, is only a fraction of what they go through.
right.
And that's the most most realistic answer I can have, is that what I went through is nothing compared to what they're going through. And I never want anybody to go through that. And I can tell you now, once again, that this Palestinian resistance will never stop. It'll never cave in. It's going to continue to grow, and hopefully, we hold the right people accountable and the right entities accountable, because we shouldn't have to be doing what we're doing, and they deserve to be free.
Yeah. And by the way, I should just tell people that they are planning another flotilla, and this time it's going to be, I believe, dozens of ships participating from over 40 countries. Do you know anything more about this plan? Are you involved in planning any of this, or are are you back in the States and doing other activism and organizing?
No, I mean I'm not going to be involved in the planning of it. They've been working on that for way before I got involved. But I'm aware of certain things. I'm not too sure what to share yet. But yeah, I already knew that that was in play prior to us leaving, and I know that there's definitely more flotillas in the future. There's going to be an all women's one coming up.
Oh, wow.
So there's going to be different type of flotillas. The thing is, it's good to announce it ahead of time, but it's another thing to leave, actually be able to leave the ports, which they're going to have to battle. Those 40 countries are. It's not as easy as people think it is to leave. You may get clearance or you may get registered, but a lot of countries when they find out what you're doing, they don't allow you to leave the ports, which is a whole nother battle that they're
Correct.
going to have to face. But I wish them the luck, and I fully support it, and if I will go back in the future. I don't know when, but I will be going back soon.
By the way, I just want to explain because in case people don't know what scabies is, and this speaks to the conditions, but it's a contagious skin infestation caused by microscopic mites that burrow under the skin, and this leads to an intense itching and a pimple-like rash. So that is, and it spreads easily from person to person. So that was what you were subjected to in
Yeah,
this.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I have it. It's really all over my back and my chest area. But I was fortunate enough to see a doctor right away. As soon as I got out of prison, I was dropped off at the Jordan border, and my Palestinian brothers brought me to the doctor right away, and they took care of me.
Wow. Um, were the doctors Palestinian?
Either that or Jordanian. Yeah.
Right, right, yeah, yeah. Um, who were the lawyers that you met with?
Um, they are based in 48.
Uh,
They were appointed to us with the coalition.
Got yeah,
And shout out to my lawyer Lubna. She held me down even though they didn't allow her to see me. But she did the best she could, and I really appreciate their work.
right. When did you become interested in Palestine as an issue?
It wasn't really interested. I was already prior to October 7th, I was on a panel with Dr. Mustafa Borgatti in Corcadia in Montreal. I knew about the history from him.
Great, yeah,
He invited me to Palestine way before the genocide started taking place. I was already set to go out there. I'm working with a Christian Palestinian organization in Jerusalem. I was going to be the one to bring the first U.S. labor delegation over there prior to all of this. So I was heavily involved already. But on October 7th, I was in Berlin, which is the largest Palestinian community outside of Palestine, with 40,000 of them living there. And I witnessed how the Nazi police in Germany on October 7th and that entire week treated those Palestinians right in front of me. They dragged the children away from their parents. They threw them in paddy wagons. I witnessed basically the Holocaust 2.0, the way they set up the tables in the middle of the street. And then I came back to America, and I've been very vocal ever since then.
yeah. It really is quite disgusting to see Germany embracing the brutality that they claim, of course, that they learned not to engage in. You know, they say never again. Um, and an irony is that I mean, they mistreat Palestinians more than anyone else. But another group that they mistreat in terms of arrests, I mean, they don't disappear them, but in terms of arrests, there's a disproportionate number of Jews have been arrested under their quote unquote anti-Semitism laws, which kind of tells you everything you need to know about whether or not this is about anti-Semitism. It's not. It's about believing in human rights for Palestinians. Like that's the crime in Germany, and Germany is having Palestinians pay for their crimes during the Nazi Holocaust. Palestinians who had absolutely nothing to do with it. Somehow they are the ones responsible. They're the ones who need to pay the price. And can you talk more about the connection between Amazon and big tech and Israel?
Yeah, sure. I mean, Amazon, Google, Meta, Tesla, Starlink, um, they invested $7.2 billion into a project called Project Nimbus, aka the Dark Gray Cloud, which is a project used to surveil and target and even help facilitate killing innocent Palestinians. Um, That's Amazon Web Services. Amazon Web Services is the military industrial complex in Israel, which is the Iron Dome. And even here in the United States, they have plenty of Pentagon contracts. That's the majority of Amazon's revenue is military contracts. They have them on payroll, and that's what people have to understand. When you're supporting Amazon, you're absolutely supporting genocide.
Yeah. Actually, because you brought up the Nazi behavior of Germany, I want to, Brad, I didn't plan this before, but I just thought of it right now. I'm going to text it to you. Is that a good way for me to get it for you? Or I could play it, which, okay, I'll text it to you. So this is a clip. Now, something interesting is that according to the IHRA working definition of anti-Semitism, which is the International Holocaust Remembrance Association, one of the things that you're not allowed to do because it's anti-Semitic is you are not allowed to compare contemporary Israeli policies to the Nazis. So I want to show this clip. It's Moshe Feiglin, who is a Israeli politician. He was a member of the Knesset. And here is what he said about what needs to be done in Gaza. And this is from 2024, but it's obviously still relevant.
לא אורחים בארצנו. זאת הארץ שלנו כולה. ועכשיו, מי שהיה לו, היינו צריכים להסתדר איתו איכשהו. כי גם הוא ישב פה, וצריך להיות הומני, והכל נכון, והכל טוב ויפה. הראה שהוא מייצג את האסלאמו-נאציזם העמוק ביותר. כמו שאנחנו לא מבינים, כמו שברור לנו, שאנחנו לא יכולים לחיות, איך אמר היטלר יימח שמו? אני לא יכול לחיות בעולם הזה אם יש יהודי אחד נותר בו. אנחנו לא נוכל לחיות בארץ הזאת עם אסלאמו-נאצי אחד שכזה נשאר בעזה. ואנחנו לא חזרנו לעזה, והפכנו אותה לעזה העברית.
So they're going to turn Gaza into Hebrew Gaza, which is code for ethnic cleansing and genocide. And he even cites you're kind of like a Nazi when you say, as Hitler said, and you're not saying it as an example of something evil, but as a kind of slogan that you're going to apply on a different population. Yeah. So
these people will never see a Hebrew Gaza in their lifetime. They can give it up.
Yeah. And why do you say that? Because what makes you say that?
Them people would rather die on their land before giving it up. That's what they don't realize. It's not going to happen. Trump, Bibi, they're gonna croak in their casket before they ever see the Gaza that they imagine. It's not going to happen in their lifetime, so they can give it up.
Yeah. They really are like evil parodies of themselves. It's unbelievable. You can't make it up. I guess under the internet in the IHRA working definition of anti-Semitism, they should accuse this guy, Feiglin's an anti-Semite, according to their definition, because he's basically comparing modern Israeli policy to the Nazis. And last thing I want to ask you is, what are your thoughts on Black Palestinian solidarity? Do you think that there's a special relationship there?
Absolutely. I mean, what can I say? They are brothers and sisters. They're in my neighborhood right now. They're in every hood in America. Palestinians, Black people, we always been in the same communities since the beginning of time. So Black liberation, Palestinian liberation is all the same.
Any final words that you want to share? This has been great, and I'm really grateful for your time. Any final messages?
Gaza teaches the world how to love. Free Palestine, free Gaza, until it's backwards.
Great. Thank you so much, Chris. Thanks so much for everything that you do.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Have a great night. That was great. So inspiring to talk to Chris. It's always very inspiring. And he has a real way with words, and he's so authentic. And also, you know, he has gotten famous from his organizing, and there are a lot of people who become famous and they hang out and go to parties and they support things that are maybe popular. They support things that you don't have to pay a price for supporting. You know, slogans, love is love, love trumps hate, all that stuff. But it's a different kind of person who actually doesn't just talk the talk, but walks the walk. So want to thank Chris for being a real one. And I've seen him, you know, I've seen him at Palestine protests. I've seen him at other kinds of protests. He's someone who really does see the connections between the labor movement and other movements. And it's too bad that more people don't see that as much as he does. So he's a lesson to all of us and an inspiration. So we are coming up to the second segment of this show. And we are really excited to be bringing on, making his Katie Halper show debut, Anthony Aguilar. Also coming back onto the show, Greg Stoker. And Anthony Aguilar, you guys have probably seen him. He's a whistleblower. You've probably seen him share his story. And if you watch this show, you've seen him because we covered his story and this heartbreaking story about a Palestinian boy who we're going to get to that when we have him on, named Amir. So Anthony Aguilar is a U.S. military veteran who worked with the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation as a security contractor, and he witnessed and blew the whistle on the murder that he saw. We're also joined by Greg Stoker, who is an ex-Army Ranger and has a podcast on Mint Press and is a journalist, and he's an anti-war veteran. So welcome to the show, Anthony and Greg.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Let's see, Anthony, where is he? We had him before. I hope
can everybody hear me and see me now? Okay, thank you.
Let's see. Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you so much for coming back on the show, and Anthony, thank you so much
Katie,
for coming.
can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear us? Can you hear us? Can you hear us, Anthony? Let me see. Is it worth texting him? Let's see.
Electronic interference has begun.
Yeah, exactly. Seriously. And I should mention it's Colonial Outcast is the
Yeah, it kicked in right as we started. I can hear and see you.
Okay,
All right.
Great. Okay, perfect. Yeah. So before we get into the story and the crimes that you've been blowing the whistle on, Anthony, I wanted to ask you just a little bit about yourself and your professional life in the Army, why you joined the Army in the first place, and how you got from where you started to where you are today.
So I joined the military from the influence of my family. My mother and father both served. My mother was in the Air Force as a flight surgeon, and my father was in the Navy as a crewman, on an aircraft crewman. So they ended up in San Antonio, Texas, and that's where I grew up, and wanted to join the military just because of the influence of my parents. And at a high school, ended up going to West Point. And after I commissioned, it was at the height of both wars in both Iraq and Afghanistan. And, you know, I was 22 years old, and I was an infantry platoon leader leading infantry soldiers in Fallujah, and the second battle of Fallujah. And that whole deployment, really opened my eyes to things in terms of looking at things from a different perspective as an officer, that really focused me more on the Constitution and our service, and that, supporting and defending the Constitution doesn't always mean doing what's popular. It doesn't always mean going with what everybody else thinks is the okay thing to do. It's not along party lines. It's not along, what's always comfortable. Sometimes it goes against your own personal beliefs in terms of, what is right and what is constitutional. And that actually my military experience and my devotion to American values, it's what encouraged me to want to speak out on this. So people have called me a snitch, a rat, anti-American. People have called me Hamas, which I think is laughable considering that I spent 25 years in the military and deployed 12 times and fought in 4 wars. I can assure everyone that I am not Hamas. I have no agenda in any of this other than to tell the truth, because I think that American values are at stake. I think that as Americans, we value freedom, we value liberty, we value self-governance, and to be complicit and involved in the opposite of that in an area that set aside the war itself, the war component of it. There are innocent civilians, a large population of innocent civilians, women and children, that are starving and that are dying in Gaza. Anybody that says that there is no starvation in Gaza, whether it's Bibi Netanyahu or it's Ambassador Huckabee, or anybody that says that there's no starvation in Gaza, is either just evil or a complicit liar. The evidence is there, and I have seen it firsthand. And I know that anybody that has a pair of eyes that sees the news and can read knows that that's what's going on. And even if, I consider myself fortunate that I had the opportunity to be in Gaza for such a long period of time and to see things with my own eyes. The truth is, I know it. And my truth is the truth. Is there starvation and genocide that is occurring in Gaza? Yes. Is there forced displacement of the population being moved from where they live into areas where they don't live, with the promise of food, which is such a horrible thing to promise, to give starving people food and bait them to an area for forced displacement. The Israeli government and the Israeli military, the IDF, give it a different name of we're shifting the population to do combat operations. Well, no, you're displacing them. Or hey, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation likes to detract with this. They say this every time they do some kind of announcement or press release. They always talk about how many meals they've distributed, and when they give that number, people that aren't, people that are just blind to this, that just want to go with this systematic starvation, and go with it gladly, say, clap and applaud. Oh, that's so great. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, because every time they say it, I think to myself, why are you celebrating that? Shame on you for what you're saying. Because they say this was yesterday, because while I was there, I was put in charge of the operations for tracking.
You are glitching, Anthony.
Interesting. So
let's see what's happening here.
I'll shoot him a text message.
Okay,
Katie.
great. Yeah, great. Yeah. People are asking about something that Anthony has said in past appearances that I happen to know. I actually asked him about it, and so I'm going to let him correct the record on that. But while we're waiting for Anthony, I think that's. Oh no, is he back? No, he's frozen now. Greg, tell us your story. And it's interesting because I wanted to have you guys on together because there's a lot I don't understand about the military, honestly. And I think it's really important to have people who are critical of American foreign policy, who are from that world, because it means a lot more coming from you guys than it does from me. I don't know why to say I don't know a lot about the military. I'm such an apologetic woman. That's terrible. Well, okay, I don't actually, but I didn't have to say it. Okay, so I wanted to have you guys on. And because I think the left, like lots of times we don't know about that because it's not, it's for kind of obvious reasons. I think can be a disconnect. So I was excited by the idea of having you on so you guys could talk about things and also explain them to a civilian audience. But you are someone who is a lot more, I would say, radical than than Anthony. So I'm excited also to hear about how you guys see things differently and also how you guys do overlap. But what are your thoughts so far on the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation?
Well, first of all, I did one contract in a special operations unit called the 75th Ranger Regiment to Afghanistan. Then I got out, then went to college. I was a non-commissioned officer and fire team leader. Then I went more into human intelligence stuff, starting with like field interrogations and stuff like that. And now I'm a journalist. I'm associated with veterans organizations like About Face and Veterans for Peace. I'm a little bit more hardcore in my ideology than Veterans for Peace. I'm more like anti-imperialist, full stop. I started talking out publicly. I mean, I've been involved in that kind of stuff for a while, but I wasn't a public figure until October 15th, 2023, after basically doing the best kind of open source assessment of the strike packages going into Gaza. This was pre the ground invasion.
I
And
don't think I knew this. I thought of you as like you're such a like a regular part of the media ecosystem. And you know, an anti-war voice that I don't think I realized that you weren't public until so recently.
yeah, no, I never really wanted to be. But I felt like just watching these egregious strike packages and evaluating them the best we could, basically before the ground invasion started. You know, we were trying to, when I say we, I had other veterans who did like all source intelligence analysis back when they were in. You've had one of them on your show, former Captain Josephine Gilbo. We were like desperately going through Snapchats, which have a geolocation function and a timestamps, trying to map out what exactly they were trying to hit. And it became really clear that it wasn't necessarily high value targets. It was civilian infrastructure. And, you know, what pissed me off the most.
Oh, and sorry. Okay. It's not just me. Thank you. Someone wrote define strike packages, please.
Okay. So basically you have a target set and you're like, we have these air assets. We have Apache gunships. We've got fighter bombers, and we're going to hit these 10 targets, come back, refuel, send out another strike package. So it's basically this whole targeting parameters that you're giving throughout the Gaza Strip. And we've since known that it's like AI driven. We don't know how much human accountability is going into these strike packages, because we've determined that there's two different AI programs that they're using. One's called the Gospel. The other's called Lavender, which is a Palantir program. And I was talking to Paul Bigger about this, who's the CEO of Tech for Palestine, and he's a big tech guy. And he had this awesome quote. It's like, you don't use a machine to make decisions because you can't hold a machine accountable. Like how do you process an AI program for war crime? Anyways, so that and seeing U.S. talking heads, former military people, come on to CNN and Fox News and MSNBC. They obviously get a paycheck. They get paid to be on retainer for these legacy media outputs. And it was like, I served in Baghdad. We did this in Mosul, you know, during ISIS. And it's like, one of my best friends, he was also Mr. Aguilar, former West Point field grade artillery officer. He was a fire control officer in Baghdad. He's like, no, we couldn't drop that kind of ordnance. And then I was plugged into the kinetic strike targeting cycle in Afghanistan. We couldn't drop the same ordnance at all. We have something called CDE, CDA, collateral damage assessments, and which generally have to, if they're really controversial, get cleared through JAG, Judge Advocate General. And none of these would have been cleared, in my experience, in the experience of other veterans who fought in the global war on terror. So that's when I started talking, and I knew exactly what was happening when I started doing an open source analysis on what they were hitting and what they were dropping. So,
and so then you spoke out.
Yeah, that's when I went public in late 2023. And
did you get attacked and smeared and called names?
I wasn't associated with anything. I had been out for a while. So no, I just got hit with stolen valor. So I had to post my DD-214 to say, yes, I was in Ranger Regiment. I did this job. I went to these schools. I did these deployments, and just left it alone. And over the past year, they've disappeared.
Right. And stolen valor is when you're not military and you claim that you're military?
Or you do stuff in the military that you lie about.
Okay. Got it. Yeah. Right. Okay. So Anthony, you have joined us again. Thank you for that.
Yep.
Let's see, where were we? Where did we get cut off?
I was talking about the amount of meals that often GHF will kind of celebrate and communicate. And you know, one thing I think is interesting that everybody needs to know when they hear these numbers is that, you know, they talk about like just today they talked about 107 million meals. So when you think about that, 107 million meals. Well, over 72 days of distribution, for a population of 2.1 to 2.2 million, with the supposed giving them 3 meals a day, three meals of 200 calories apiece, by the way, 600 calories a day. That's starvation. And that's only the equivalent of 16 days of food. So out of 72 days, you have 16 days of food. If you were to spread that food out over 72 days, the people of Gaza are eating one meal, one 200 calorie meal every 1.5 days. And I took a deliberate effort to understand, like, what are we feeding them? What was the UN method, and what are we doing now in comparison? Because it just seemed so dismal. It seems so lacking. And I was always told, like, oh yeah, this is equivalent to that. And I was like, I don't think it is. So, I did that math and I looked at it. So whenever they advertise this, realize that they're celebrating the starvation of the population. Imagine if your child went to school and the teacher said, the child is looking emaciated and lacking energy, and they came to your house and they said, hey, are you feeding your child? And you're like, of course I'm feeding my child. They eat once a week. You would be put in jail. Your child would be taken from you. The population of Gaza should be the GHF should be taken away from GHF, and they should not be doing it. Also, because the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is an appendage of the Israeli government, of the IDF. It is the IDF's way of subterfuging the humanitarian violations of humanitarian law or violations of Geneva Convention by placing the actor as somebody else, while the IDF conduct the action. So, case in point being, during the UN, the days before the blockade, just after the ceasefire ended, there were still 400 distribution sites throughout the entire enclave, south to north, west to east. 400. When GHF came in, we only opened 4. And I know that because I was personally involved with the establishment and opening up the 4. There's only 3 now. And all 3 of those are located in the furthest portion of the south of Gaza, down near the Egyptian border, away from any human beings that need food. In Rafah, down to the south, no one lives there. It is a dystopian wasteland that has been leveled to the ground 10 times over. There is not a living thing there other than the IDF and these distribution sites. So why would we build distribution sites to feed a starving population where there are no people, and the only way for them to get there is to walk great distance, that in walking to the site to get food, they burn twice as many more calories than they're actually getting in the food that we give them, and we're also giving them far less than what they need. It is starvation. It is deliberate in a systematic process for starvation, which, if you take the aspect of starvation and how widespread it's become now, and it's become one of the primary factors in death, sickness, disease, and starvation related illness, that's genocide. There's no other way to call it. There's no other thing to call it. And if America and the world doesn't start looking at this and calling it for what it is, definitions that are in the dictionary, these aren't definitions that Tony Aguilar makes up. These are definitions in the dictionary that are in the language of the protocols of the Geneva Convention, that it is genocide. There is starvation. And the United States, because of our tax dollars and because we have US citizens right now on the ground in Gaza armed on a tourist visa, by the way, which still just blows my mind that we're there on a tourist visa. Brad, or Greg, how crazy that is.
Because you didn't have a status of forces agreement.
That's right. We have, because we are there as a private contract and the IDF is the client. We work for the IDF. We aren't there under any status of forces agreement. We aren't there under Title 10 authority. We aren't there underneath any security cooperation authority. We are in the country as tourists, armed with fully automatic weapons, sent into Gaza to distribute aid, and we've never been given or provided with a rules of engagement, a standard operating procedure, escalation of force procedures, a legal briefing. Not that these things were never mentioned. They were mentioned, and they were told, well, the IDF say that we don't need it. We have become an appendage of the IDF to do their bidding, and the United States has now become a pawn in that, and that is the absolute truth. If anybody would care to, to offer a different explanation as to why we would build all of our distribution sites away from the population that needs it, not give them any water, and only give them meals to the equivalent of 200 calories per meal. And out of 72 days, we've only given them 16 days of food, and we just turn our back to that, or turn away to that and think it's okay. If that's not starvation and the systematic destruction of a group, which is genocide, then I don't know what is, because it's pretty clear to me that that's exactly what it is.
And we can actually approach this from an academic perspective too. The Israeli military doctrine, which I started studying after I got out of the military, and when I was in college, there's actually position papers, white papers published by the Combined Institute or Combined Arms Center of Combat Studies out of Fort Leavenworth. For the audience, if you want an open source document, it's called, the paper, just Google it, it's called "We Were Caught Unprepared." It's a evaluation of the 2006 Israel-Hezbollah war, where they developed this thing, which they, even in their own military circles, call the Da'iya doctrine. It was the position of the U.S. Army War College over there that they suffered a strategic defeat, or were suffering a strategic defeat. And so what they did is they bombed the hell out of the Da'iya suburb that was associated with Hezbollah in Beirut. It is essentially something that they keep going with. And yeah, that's the paper. That's one of the things that civilians have access to about this. And anyways, it is by definition the collective punishment of civilians in order to coerce diplomatic concessions from the associated armed population. So it's baked into their military doctrine to do stuff like this. And I just wanted to remind everybody, that's some open source stuff you can peruse on your own time.
I want to actually ask something, because I was going to ask you about this later, Anthony, but people are putting in the chat. So I do want to ask you. People are saying that you said something about there have been allegations of that you can probably guess if I think they're true, about a baby being microwaved that was repeated by Tammy Bruce, I believe. And I think you said that on a show that you appeared on. Do you have any updates about that claim?
Yeah, so on Breaking Points, I think it was last week, I was talking about that, and what's important about that statement is that, yes, that's been debunked, that is not true. Conveying that in the approach that Israel, the IDF, take, because in this conflict, what's going on right now, narratives have become very popular, or very powerful. Well, they've always been, but in this case, the narrative of dehumanization, to use a bombastic, overblown narrative to justify the dehumanization of the entire population of Gaza, to say that Hamas did this, it was so bad that everybody deserves to be punished, and look how bad it was. And what's worse than saying something like that? So when Israelis go to Kibbutz Be'eri, which was hit outside of Gate 96, to get a tour of it, that's one of the things that they're told. It's kind of like when I was growing up in Texas and we went to the Alamo every year, we were told that the Texans won, right? And you grow up and you're like, well, that's not true. Like, it didn't happen. So it's kind of like you get told these things and you realize that's not true. Yeah. It's a narrative that's specifically designed to incite anger and hate and visceral hate. So in Israel, there's an overlook over Gaza that's kind of a elevated area on the Israeli side, on a knoll, on a tell, if you will, and you can take a picture with Gaza in the background burning, bombs dropping. It's a tourist spot to take a picture, to celebrate. This is not how civilized societies behave. This is not how civilized societies act. Yes, there's hatred, and yes, there's anger, and yes, lives on October 7th and before on both sides have been hurt. Regardless of it, it doesn't justify genocide. It doesn't justify in fact, whenever politicians say it, I tell myself, I'm like, you just on the record, verbatim, described a war crime. To characterize the entire population of a to characterize the entire population of a group or a nation or a nation state or a population as the enemy and treat them as such is a war crime. It's specifically in the protocols of the Geneva Convention. You
Right.
can't you can't do that, and then you can't persecute a war where you are systematically doing that. And that is exactly what they're doing. As Greg was saying, in Iraq and Afghanistan, collateral damage assessments, collateral damage analysis, CDA, CDEs, to determine if I drop this bomb here and it's going to blow up this much, based on the value of the target, so to speak, is in the civilian damage that can occur around it and associated with the level of the target. These things have to get blessed off on by very high-ranking officers, general officers, sometimes all the way to the SecDef, depending on how sensitive it is. Not in Gaza. I have witnessed with my own eyes being in Rafah at night on a distribution site and just watching the bombs drop all night on neighborhoods and areas that are designated for civilians. The level of just dehumanizing the population, the things that the Israelis call the Palestinians the zombies, the horde, the animals. It's right out of the playbook. It's right out of the how to be a dictator, how to commit genocide playbook. Dehumanize the population,
Right.
spread narratives that justify your anger towards that population, continue to do it in plain sight. They're not even hiding it. Do it in plain sight to where the world becomes tempered to it. It's like the frog in the boiling water.
Right.
We have all been sitting in this boiling water for so long that we now don't even realize from whence we came of how far we've gotten off track of allowing these atrocities. Because if the United States or any of our allies were doing this in Afghanistan or Iraq, the world would have condemned us months ago.
Yeah, remember
Sorry to
in
interject.
20
I just wanted to add one thing to that. I just looked up this piece in the Irish Times, and I don't know if there's more than one viewing point, but it said that at this particular one, they actually installed vending machines so
Yes.
that people could
Yeah.
buy refreshments. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you recalled back in 2015 when the U.S. Air Force dropped the Doctors Without Borders hospital in Kunduz province. It was this massive international incident. There may have been a cover-up. There was a lot of PR cover and there was a reevaluation.
That was first Battalion, 3rd Special Forces Group. I was there and I was in that battalion, so I remember it very well.
Okay, well, there you go. It wasn't normalized. It wasn't something that just happened. And now I talk a lot about this, how warfare is kind of like law. When you set precedents, it's really hard to unset them. So it's now the world is a lot less safe. Global security is degraded because now we've normalized a state policy of bombing hospitals or destroying hospitals or sending forces into hospitals and raiding hospitals without any look. If there are fighters in the hospitals, they haven't provided any SSC or proof at all.
What's the SSC? What is that? Sorry.
Sensitive site
exploitation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like
It's basically like photos,
Yeah.
evidence, stuff like that. Along with weapons caches that were supposed to be there, tunnels.
Also,
whatever.
you're still not allowed to. I mean, this is important to note that there are so many layers of dishonesty and dehumanization because 1, they don't provide the evidence for it. But 2, even if they did have that, you're not allowed to unless it's like an active site where people are actively attacking. You can't just say that they've been there or they use this space. So like they also don't follow. They always are pretending. Israel is always pretending to follow international humanitarian law, and they don't. So even if there's evidence of that, it's not defensible.
When I've been tracking their narrative, that they've been used to justify these combat actions since the beginning. And at first they had the pretense that they were fighting a counterinsurgency, and they'd use as a reference U.S. coin doctrine, which is kind of a controversial doctrine within U.S. military circles. That was kind of what we were doing during the global war on terror. We're fighting a counterinsurgency. And what I started to use as a talking point was one of the foundations of it was something called SWET MSO: sewage, water, electricity, academics, trash, medical, safety, and others. And the basic premise was, if you're fighting a counterinsurgency and you want to mitigate the amount of people who essentially want to kill you, you basically try to do whatever you can to maintain the functions of normal modern life, because it may dissuade a guy from picking up an AK if, there's some sense of normalcy. So like in Iraq, I know we sent in contractors to fix dams, stuff like that. But just doing like an open source analysis on the opening days of the quote unquote invasion, they were intentionally targeting all of that civilian infrastructure.
Right. So I just want to return to what we just were talking about. So I think that so you acknowledge that was and I'm not very good at doing this. I'm not good at pushing back on guests, but you acknowledge that isn't true, right? The thing about
yes, no, I acknowledge, and I know that is not true.
How did you? I'm just curious. How did you hear about it, and then how did you hear it wasn't true?
So how did I hear about it? Was that in going to when we first got this contract, we first got there, and we were in Israel, and I felt, I wanted to better understand, October 7th through the lens of both from Gaza and from Israel. You read it in the news, you judge it from an ocean away. I wanted to understand, and when you go to the kibbutz and they're giving you a tour of the different areas, that's one of the stops, so to speak, on the tour, where they take you and they show you that this is where that happened. And when I was there, that was the first that I had ever heard about that. I had not, again, I don't have any social media. I really keep to myself a lot. So I knew of the events. I didn't know of those details, and they had said that, and I was kind of shocked by it.
Well, right, because that's what they do is and we've seen this very clearly weaponized, right? And this is called like atrocity propaganda, because when you hear something that's very like blood curdling, it kind of it like skips the brain, right? It's like it acts on your lizard senses or whatever, and that is supposed to make you, I think, just accept whatever Israel's doing. I mean, I think that's why, and a lot of people point this out, like, there were things that were done on October 7th that were terrible. I mean, I don't think you have to both sides things or pretend that armed resistance isn't legal under international law, but there's a difference between killing combatants and civilians. But there's no need to make these things up, right? But they do make these things up because they want them to be as gruesome as possible. So when did you learn that hadn't happened?
Well, so after we had gone to the kibbutz, and I was at the time still in Beersheba. Went to Beersheba, and I was talking with someone that was also there on the contract. Their background was more State Department, and they had told me, they were like that's not true, right? And I was like, what do you mean? They described it in such detail, and like they were so passionate. They were like, no. So they showed me all this information about it and how it wasn't, and I was like, man, that's a really powerful, impactful way to make someone angry, though. And if you don't have the desire or the wherewithal to go and know the truth behind that, and that's how narratives work. And the IDF and the Israelis, they are very good with narratives. They are very good with psychological warfare and narratives, and that is a very powerful thing. So yes, I know that did not happen, and that is not true. But the narrative of it is true. It's true that they have that in their narrative, what happened on October 7th, that they say that to spur that anger, almost in a way that gives what they're doing in Gaza justification, because they'll go back to say, oh, well, look what happened on October 7th. It's like, okay, no one's denying that, but it doesn't mean that you can just go in and then violate every aspect of the Geneva Convention and international humanitarian law and just do, not have no constraint like that. One does not justify the other. So it's interesting to me how they use that narrative. And again, as we've talked about, that creepiness of, you blow up a school, you blow up a hospital, and the world says that's wrong, and they say, well, Hamas uses it. And to your point, as you said, Katie, it's like, well, they do, but they're not using it right now. It doesn't have military utility at this point. So you just committed a war crime. And everybody says, oh, well, they said that Hamas uses it, so they do. And then now they do it every day. They've done it to do it once, and now it's become normalized. I'm afraid what my grave concern is what becomes normalized to the end state. Are we just going to all stand back and watch as the entire population of Gaza is annihilated because we've just become tempered to it?
Right.
And we just temper ourselves into that end state? To me, that is so frightening, because it's possible. I mean, I cannot describe being physically in Gaza, and I've been in some places where I've seen destruction. Raqqa in Syria, Mosul in Iraq, during the first part of the first war, and when we went again with ISIS. I've seen a lot of destruction. When I entered Gaza and crossed through the Karim Shalom entrance and past the kind of the warehouses, and you could actually have a view. It was morning and sun was rising over the enclave, and you could see the vast destructive wasteland. It was, my brain couldn't even bring it to comprehend the level of destruction. And I've seen a lot of destruction. It's beyond anything I've ever seen. And when Western journalism or when the world has had enough and goes in to say, okay, we're tired of this secrecy, we want to go in, hey, we're going to take a look. And when we take a look, it's going to bring the world to its knees, how bad it is. And right now, what's really disturbing to me as an American is that we're complicit in it. And is it genocide? Yes. Is it starvation? Yes. Is there a famine? Yes. Are we side by side with the killing of women and children and the elderly? Yes. I've seen it with my own eyes. I have touched a child and looked into his eyes, and moments later he was dead. And anybody that says otherwise, I would say, well, were you there? Because I was. So yeah, it's real, and it concerns me as to where does it stop?
Right. And there's one thing I think often gets lost. Thinking, I of course am not going to apologize for U.S. actions overseas. I'm part of organizations that want to end that. But I was thinking about, all their claims and how they conduct themselves. I just remember spending the most formative years of my life in an organization called like JSOC, Joint Special Operations Command. In Afghanistan, one of the preferred things to do was, if you could get a line on a guy out in the open and you could drone strike him, you would, because you don't have to risk operators sending them out into, territory that might have surface to air fire, and you're dealing with another extortion 1-7 incident. But if you couldn't, because they were in a civilian compound or a madrasa or some other, site that you weren't ever going to get clearance to drop, guess what? Night raid. Send in special operations forces. But even since the beginning, I'm like, are they even conducting special operations? I think it looks, for me, just through open source analysis, I've never been on the ground there. Like, are they doing that? Because it seems like they're just dropping everything.
Oh no, they're destroying everything.
Yeah. That's something I just wanted to point out. I
once watched about 7 kilometers, maybe a little bit less, on a rising terrain off of site number 3. So down in the south, you have sites 1, 2, and 3. 3 is the furthest north of those, closest to Rafah, Khan Yunis, and they were conducting airstrikes that night. And I watched them hit the same building to the point to where it was turned into dust and rubble. And that's what when you speak with the IDF that are in Gaza, like their intent is annihilation. Their intent is to destroy the infrastructure, destroy like a great point you made up is that, or great point you brought up is that when you're waging war, you don't want to destroy everything, because the intent is at the conclusion of war, there's the ability for civil population to then come back and you reestablish society. You don't sow the seeds of an insurgency. You don't destroy everything. We learned this in World War II, that after World War II, when we occupied Germany and some of the allies were like, we're destroying everything. The Soviets were like, we're going to destroy it all. And we were like, well, let's not, because let's not repeat what we did in World War I that caused World War II. Let's not do that again. What we're is It's not even good. It's not even in Israel's self-interest. They're just so focused on this right now that they're willing to bring everything and everybody with them. Doing this is not even in their self-interest. And it's gone so far beyond the point of any type of proportionality, specificity, targeting. There is none of that going on. It is systematically bombing areas until there's just nothing left. Think of carpet bombing in Vietnam, but at a slightly lesser mass scale, but it's just systematic instead of all at once. But that's about what it looks like.
I wanted to also ask about I've heard claims, excuse me, that Israel is collaborating with others to steal aid to then claim Hamas is stealing aid. Do you know about this?
So I don't know about the particular steal claim, but this was something that did give me concern while we were there. So under the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation in Israel executing the delivery into Gaza, the IDF are in charge. There is zero gray area, and understand the IDF are in charge. They tell us, the contractors, they tell us where we're going to deliver, when we're going to deliver, how much we're going to deliver. They're the boss. They run the show. And I mean, they even chose and built the sites. The one thing that was interesting is that later on in the a few days into the operations, we started to provide the IDF, like not to the World Food Program or to UNRWA, so the IDF could escort them, or not to Kogat. Kogat is an entity within the Israeli Ministry of Defense. It's a cooperative organization. It's kind of like their version of like a humanitarian aid organization. That we were putting food on trucks for the IDF themselves, without us there, the IDFs themselves, to go into areas to deliver it because it was too dangerous for us. And then that food just disappeared. Like it didn't go to where they said it was going to go. And there was just this kind of this hand wave of like, hey, the 14 trucks that we gave y'all to go deliver this food there, it didn't go there. Like, what happened to it? And they're just like, what trucks? And we're like, and I was like, I was there. What are you talking about? I was there when you left with them. What are you talking about? And they're like, what trucks? And then I get told there were no trucks. And I'm like, wow, we're in this deep when it's just that blatant.
Wow. Yeah.
I do have a question of the conduct of the IDF troops on the ground. Something I've been wondering, because I have been able to interview a few ex-IDF soldiers, but they already got out before October 7th happened. Then they'd been out for a while, and they weren't in combat roles. They're mostly like logistics and stuff. When we saw the casualty list before they put a blackout order on it in the media, like we were seeing like 19-year-old sergeants and like 21-year-old, like sometimes I saw a 21-year-old major. So from my experience, who, I didn't get a fire team until I'd like done 2 combat deployments. And I definitely wasn't 19 at all. It just seems like, why are they so young? And are they undisciplined on the ground? Do they know what they're doing? Do they have any like standing orders? Like, what exactly is going on with them? Because they're saying they're going to go back in and reinvade the Gaza Strip. And I'm like, are you even disciplined enough to perform complex operations in a dynamic environment? What's your assessment on that?
So the forces in the South, or in Gaza, period, are the reservists, the conscripts. They're the conscripted force that was brought up, put into reserve duty, and put in there with little to no training, don't have experience. Soldiering is not their job. Young, inexperienced. Yes, it was. They do not, the forces that they have that are going to be in Gaza, that are going to be doing this occupation, if you will, because they're going to need a lot of, occupation takes a lot of people. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be a disciplined, seasoned force. It's going to be inexperienced, immature, in an operational environment that is far too complex for really any army. And the reason I say that is because there's no delineation in Gaza now between military objectives, civilian objectives, military targets, civilian areas. Again, they put the distribution sites in the middle of active combat areas. There's no distinction in it for an Israeli soldier. going into that situation where in 1 minute you're surrounded by 9,000 to 10,000 starving people. You've never been in.
It's going to come back.
Like when things get so chaotic, it just takes one catalyst, one event to turn that thing into mayhem. And that's what happens in these events. It's, there's panic and there's fear on both sides. Someone takes a shot and then everybody shoots, and then it turns into chaos. And that's how a lot of these stampeding, shooting, suffocation from stampeding. I mean, seeing a human being trampled to death and suffocated from being trampling to death is one of the most brutal things I've ever seen. And no, they do not have the discipline and the professionalism to be able to do an occupy by force, if you will, mission at that scale in this area. And it's going to be ugly. It is not going to be an exquisitely conducted wide area security military operation that ends in the obtaining of this, for this occupation. It's going to be ugly. There's going to be a lot of civilians that die. There's going to be a lot of IDF that die.
Yeah,
There's going to be a lot of destruction and death.
They turned the entire place into Stalingrad, and we've been talking about the mistake the Nazis made by that, because one of their biggest advantages was armor, and Rebel starts throwing tracks. They've also had to send in D9 bulldozers to create channels of canalizing terrain that Hamas is just setting up EFPs on. It's a mess, like literally.
Yeah, Brad can pull up a D9 to show everybody, because you're right. But you have to see these things to believe it. This is not your uncle's bulldozer out, doing construction at the construction site. These things are like straight out of Mad Max Road Warrior.
Was there any evidence, or did you hear any reports about the use of the Hannibal Directive, which is that you kill captives so that you don't have to exchange your own prisoners? Do you know what I'm talking? Have you heard about this, Anthony? Do you know?
I have not directly heard of that that directive in terms of it being a directive, but I have heard of it at times being done that way. Even some of the Israeli soldiers in the areas south by the sites. I mean, the first day I was out there on distribution site 1, and I was walking around the perimeter, just kind of doing a leader's recon, and there was an Israeli unit there, and they were just kind of taking a break, and they were on the foot patrol, and they were taking a break, and I stopped to ask them, and just kind of talk with them, and they were like, "Hey, are you an American here with the aid distribution?" I was like, "Yeah." They're like, "Why are you feeding our enemies?" I was like, "Well, I don't think women and children are your enemies. I mean, we're just feeding starving people." And they're like, "Everybody's the enemy." So that mindset is ingrained all the way down to the troop level, if you will, all the way down to the strategic corporal. They have that mindset of everybody's the enemy, and that mindset of the whole prisoner thing. One night we were, it was very, very late, and we, at each of the sites, we had a group of 30 local Palestinians from within Gaza that had been vetted, that had been brought to the sites to work on the sites with us to assist with distribution when we had Palestinians on site and helping with the distribution. So one night we got this, this phone call from, someone you don't know who it is type of thing, where the phone rings in the tactical operations center, and the phone, it's like, "Hello," and it's like, "Hey, there's a Hamas guy on site number 1. You're like, "Who's this?" And the phone clicks, and you're like, "That's weird." So then you try to figure that out, and the IDF were claiming that one of our local workers there was affiliated with Hamas, and all of these local workers were vetted by the Israeli government themselves. And so we're like, "Well, are you sure? Because I don't know, that doesn't seem right." Well, how this worked with this exchange of this person needed to go was, the IDF told us, they're like, "Hey, send him out the front gate and have him walk north, and when he gets to the corridor, he can go home." This guy lived in Khan Yunis. That's 20 kilometers away. It's not just a walk down the block. And when this guy left that gate, I just thought to myself, I'm like, we're never going to see that guy again. And he walked out, and as soon as he hits the Marag corridor, you just hear airstrike, and the IDF liaison officers in the Joint Tactical Operations Center in there were all just kind of smiling about it, like, "Yep." And I'm like, they're not even shy about it. I'm just, yeah, it's I have not heard of that specific doctrine, but
Yeah.
Really quickly, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to show you. Here was a picture of the D9 that you'd mentioned.
Yeah, there you go.
And
It's like
Yeah.
it's like an MRAP from hell.
and then
Yeah.
and then also
That thing can level a building but yeah, that's what they have to use to create passages through the rubble, because they've rubbled it so much that it actually limits the use of their tanks.
Yeah.
I mean, in the past, I'm not going to show it, but I mean, there on social media, there's been footage. I don't know if it's of that sort of a bulldozer, but of them using a bulldozer of some kind to go over like triage hospital tents with people in them and things like that. But the just wanted to show you like a few seconds of this BBC coverage that shows a clip that I thought was pertinent regarding the aid and what you were speaking to about aid suddenly going missing. Here's just a few seconds of that.
Hunger, chaos, and death. Jeremy Bowen, BBC News, Jerusalem.
So that, sorry.
Israel's consent.
Here we go. Sorry.
The fact they're not attacked.
Here we go.
Family protects some aid convoys for money. The fact they're not attacked by the IDF suggests it is with Israel's consent.
So it just for a few seconds shows like armed people on these trucks, and the person, you know, as you heard the reporter making the supposition or the inference that since that was being allowed, clearly Israel okayed it. But yeah.
Well, Haaretz actually published an article, and this was also picked up by the Times of Israel, that, you know, they senior military officials had admitted that this Bedouin guy with ISIS links had named Abu Shabab, who is illiterate in Arabic, but somehow was writing op-eds in the Washington Post, was the ringleader of that gang. And we've seen on Telegram channels through open source that Hamas has actually been attacking this specific gang as well. So the whole thing's just an absolute mess.
Oh yeah. So I want to also ask about this horrible story about Amir. And I want to talk also about how it's not surprising that you've been smeared, and in very creative ways, actually. They've been very persuasive, because it seems like one of the things they did is that they showed messages from you where you were angry about something, and they pretended it was that you were angry about being fired. And I'm torn because I don't want to give it too much oxygen, but I do think it's worth debunking briefly. I'll say that in general, I think that if they had substantive and reliable evidence of this, they'd be suing you. And they're not. GHF has like released videos saying it's defamation if you like have you on. But I'm not, I mean, I think we've all seen how far Israel and Israel defenders will go to try to smear people. But one of the things that they've tried to debunk is the brutal story, heartbreaking story about Amir. So what do we have here, Brad? We have what is this that we have uploaded? We have photos of Amir.
Yeah.
Right?
Would you like to see the photographs or the video clip?
The photographs, and then the video clip is what? Is the video clip with his family member or?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay, sure.
But I believe either the uncle or the mother, and one of the two.
So let's show the photos. You can say what happened. Then we're going to say what, you know, of course they tried to claim, and then we'll show the other videos. Yeah. So yes. So can you set up what's happening here?
So this young boy, his name was Amir. This is distribution site number 3 on the 28th of May, and Amir was on the site getting aid with the large group. Now, what needs to be understood is that on these distribution sites, there's not an orderly process where women and children come through in one way. And
sorry, I'm really sorry. So sorry to interrupt you. So Greg has a hard out that he just learned about because something came up. This is very important, but I also want to give you. So you have 10 minutes left, Greg?
Yeah, sorry about this, guys.
No, it's fine. But I just figured because of that, I would let you ask him questions for the rest of it, and then you and I can go over the Amir thing. And I didn't ask you if you have a hard out, Anthony, because we can, and also there's so much to talk about, so we can also continue this another time. But is that cool that I give you the mic, Greg, to give Anthony the mic type of thing? Yeah. Yeah.
I just wanted to remind everybody that it's important for us to check out who the directors are of these foundations. You know, I know that Johnny Moore is associated with the White House faith group. He's an evangelical Christian businessman. There's a reason why he's they're ideologically motivated. Behind this,
And
I
that's
was
from Johnny Moore is the GHF guy who's going
yeah,
after.
sorry, guys. Yeah, Johnny Moore is the GHF guy.
Right.
You weren't, and I just kind of want to make, I don't know, for the sake of like being an informed citizen, like kind of the world of like contracting. So you weren't really part of UG Solutions, or sorry, you were UG Solutions, not GHF, right?
Yeah. So GHF, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, is a proclaimed to be a non-profit. They're just kind of consider that just a name alone. There's no body to the GHF. They don't even have a website. They don't have a staff. There's nothing to it. It's like a shell company. Underneath the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is an actual for-profit contracting company called Safe Reach Solutions. Safe Reach Solutions is owned by a former Blackwater, former Special Activities Division CIA chief, Phil Riley. So not a lot of humanitarian aid assistance in that profile. Underneath Safe Reach Solutions, you have subcontracts. UG Solutions is one of those subcontracts for security. So I was hired by UG Solutions as an independent contractor. I was not a UGS employee, like an actual W-2 employee working for the company. I was an independent contractor for a very specific 90-day period contract. But yes, I did not work for GHF. I did not work for SRS. I specifically worked for UG Solutions.
You know, it was kind of bizarre because I know a couple. I know a couple guys in the contracting world that have been doing it for a while. Two of them actually applied, and I was interviewed. I actually was talking to them. They applied. They're former, just Marine infantrymen who had been in the circle for a while. But no, it seems like they were only accepting applications for people who just recently separated and that had a special operations background. And I don't know. I've been out for a while, but we didn't do a lot of humanitarian operations in the 75th Ranger Regiment. And I can't imagine, I don't know, you guys did either.
This operation wasn't built and designed to do humanitarian assistance. That's that is a facade for whatever the real motive, the real objective is, but it's not humanitarian. The Safe Reach Solutions doesn't have any humanitarian assistance personnel that they hired initially that were trained. The person in charge of the humanitarian aid assistance team for Safe Reach Solutions for all humanitarian aid distribution for the 4 sites is a CIA covert case officer. Not a lot of humanitarian aid assistance there either. No one has humanitarian assistance aid experience in knowing what to do. No one in this whole process and project of what we're doing in Gaza, no one cares about the humanitarian aid aspect. There's something else going on.
Right, exactly. I mean, I personally don't have any experience even running a checkpoint, so it's just even more and more bizarre. So I just wanted to highlight that for the audience.
I mean, if you were going to do that, you would really want to hire logisticians and military police.
Yeah, MPs, or even like freaking mechanized infantry guys that just had to do it back in the day.
Yeah,
it's just like literally the worst kind of personnel for this.
Yeah, you don't want to hire a soft guy to do static site security for humanitarian assistance. Never done it.
Yeah. So that was like the most bizarre thing that I saw
when I
look for it. And it's just kind of I was kind of shocked by like the blatantness of it. It's like you can't even cover it up or spin it. Like,
and they don't care to. It's like it's so obvious in your face to where it's like 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 Tony Soprano owning a trash truck in Jersey and he just calls the trash truck Mafia Trash Services. Like it's so in your face that they're not even trying to hide it.
Right. So I guess they're going to keep going ahead. Do you think they're going to continue operations after this blowback that they're getting?
Yes. I think that they will get funded into the next phase, which is the establishment of the humanitarian assistant transit areas, moving everybody in Gaza to the south. I think that will happen. And what will likely happen with UG Solutions or Safe Reach Solutions is that they will dissolve and stand back up as a different company. That's what they did for this contract. SRS became a company in March. UG Solutions became a company in January. They dissolve and they pop up as new companies. So They'll probably end this contract at the 90-day mark, which is the 21st of August. They'll probably dissolve this, reconstitute under a new name, shift around the board members so it looks like there's a new CEO, and then go right into this next contract with all the same people.
Right. And just from a logistical perspective, so they're going to try to move hundreds of thousands of people, search them, sort them with what, a few hundred dudes? Like,
yeah,
how does that even
the
work?
plan itself is, well, just like in this case, that the plan was to deliver aid to the entire population of Gaza with 300 security operators. What? Yeah. I'm telling you, the intent is not that. It's almost like they're putting forth a plan to be like, oh, here's our plan for humanitarian assistance. And everybody just looks at it and they're like, okay, it sounds good. Okay, let's go focus on the real thing.
Yeah. But yeah, it just can't, it's like designed to fail. That's what it seems from an outsider.
Yes, it is designed to fail.
All right. Well, thanks so much. All right, Katie, I got to bounce. It was great meeting you.
Great to meet you. Pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for speaking out too. So
and thank you for your service.
Yeah,
thank you for what you continue to do.
Yeah, thanks. All right, y'all. Cheers.
Everyone likes Colonial Outcast podcast. Yeah. So let's see. Let's show the Amir video again that you were setting up, and then we'll talk more about that. Thanks.
I'm sorry, Katie, do you want the video or the photos?
Sorry, the photos, yeah. And Anthony can set it up, right?
So this is at the site, the secure distribution site on the 28th of May. What's important to understand about these distribution sites is that this is not an orderly process of the Palestinians coming in, separating by gender or separating by age or children and women, and they're getting any type of specific aid. This is a free-for-all. We bring in the trucks of aid, we put them in pallets and piled in pallets, and when we're ready for distribution, call it supper time, if you will, when the dinner bell rings, the IDF release the holding line where they usually have them held at the Murad corridor with tanks. They release the holding line and the entire crowd of people, 6,000, sometimes up to 9,000, rush towards the site all at one time. And it becomes survival of the fittest. It becomes the strongest survive. And those that get there first get all the aid. And the people that get there at the end get nothing. And the people at the end are usually your younger children, women, the elderly, young children like Amir here, who I thought was 6 or 7, later found out, confirmed that he's 10, no shoes, emaciated, his pants are being held up by a piece of rope. Those are the people that get there last and get nothing. You notice he's not carrying a box. He doesn't have a box of aid. That's stuff that he picked up off the ground that he was able to scavenge from what was left. And he walked up, you see where the group is behind him, quite a whip back. So he was walking towards us with his hand extended. He's looking at me. I took that picture. At first we didn't know what if he was hurt, if he was asking for water, if he was asking for more food, if he was lost, because he had nobody else with him. There was like no older sibling, there was no parents. He was alone because I'd been watching him out there because he was so small and he was completely alone. There was nobody with him. So he came over here and he held out his hand, and the contractor that was standing there with me, we just kind of walked up a little bit closer and asked, beckoned him forward. And he came up, and the contractor next to me, he first reached out and he kissed his hand. There's a picture of that, of him kissing the contractor's hand, the guy standing next to me. There it is. So he's kissing his hand, and he then comes to me and he kisses my hand. And then I place, after he kissed my hand, I put my hand on his shoulder. There's a picture of that. And in putting my hand on his shoulder, I could just feel the bone and the emaciation and the tight, dehydrated skin. And he was in a very bad state of starvation. It's not a doubt. There's no question. So again, when anybody says that there's starvation isn't happening in Gaza, shame on you for saying that, because that is a lie. I have seen it. I've smelled it. The human body dying of hunger has a smell.
What is it like?
The smell? Well, it's the the alcohols and the alkalines of your body, and your muscle starts to eat itself, and your sweat has this very alkalinic, vinegary smell. It's very, like when I went to Ranger school in the Army, you don't eat a lot and you're pushed pretty hard, and you start to get this sweat. They call it, Ranger school sweat, because your body is eating itself. It's a very distinct and pungent odor there's nothing else like it. It is the odor. It is the smell of your body decomposing while you're alive. Your body is eating itself. And he had that smell. It's unmistakable. So he was starving, and he walked a long distance to get there, and he had no shoes, lost air.
Oops.
He wanted, that he was upset. He wanted to thank us. He kissed our hands, and in Arab culture, kissing of the hand by another male, kissing the hand, and then he kissed the hand and put it to his forehead. That's a very deep sign of deep respect. That's not just like a hey, what's up? It's a very deep sign of respect. And it was one of those pictures is the one with my hand on his shoulder.
Brad, do you have that photo?
I'm sorry. I don't think that was
Okay.
included in the ones that you had sent.
Okay, I'll look through and then send it here later so people can see it. But
Yeah.
so I put my hand on his shoulder and I looked at him, and I knelt down because I wanted to be at eye level. And I said to him, I was like, the world hasn't forgotten you. We're not. You won't be forgotten. And that wasn't just me saying that to him. That was to all the people of Gaza. That the world's not going to turn its back. America isn't going to turn its back. We won't let this happen. We aren't going to allow this to happen. And I just looked at him, and I kind of got tear in my eyes because he looks like my son. And I said to him, I was like, the world's not going to forget you. You're not alone. And the look on his face was one of despair and fear, but also of hope. And he looked at me, and this is something that I'll never forget this in my entire life. I'll probably remember it just the same as when I got married or when my son was born. And he set the items that he had in his hand down, his little items that he picked up off the ground. No way for him to cook these items. A bag of rice, half a bag of dried beans.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I just thought to myself, like, this little boy is not going to survive this war. And what are we doing about it? And, he set down his items, and he walked closer to me, and he put his hands on my face just to touch my face. And he looked at me, and his fingers were just so emaciated, and his fingernails were dry and brittle. Again, a sign of starvation when your body stops producing keratin for protein, and your body's just breaking down. He's dying before me. He's starving, and he puts his hands on my cheeks, and he kissed me on he gives me this kiss on the forehead. He brings his nose in his nose, and he kisses me, and he looks at me, and he says, "Thank you." And not in Arabic. He didn't say shukran. He said thank you. And he walked back with the group. And at that time, the UG Solutions personnel on the ground had gotten to this routine followed by the IDF to get them off the site, we would start doing pepper spray and stun grenades. And everyone's seen this that's followed GHF at all on the videos of the sites. There's pepper spraying, there's stun grenades, there's no denying this. This is a fact. So when they deny it, it's disgusting to me that they deny it. Pushing these people off the site. Well, when the crowd is there and you start pushing them off the site, the exit's very narrow, and everyone's getting pushed through this exit, and stun grenades are being thrown, pepper spray is being sprayed, bullets are being fired, and the crowd, of course, panics. It's fear for their lives, and they're running off of site number 2. Excuse me. I think I said distribution site number 3 is distribution site number 2. As they're moving off the site, the at this particular site, because 2 was right in between where 1 and 3 were, and there were Israeli units operating in there's a berm at the exit to this site that follows all the way till it connects to the Marag corridor, which is the only way they can travel to go back to the west. And the IDF had a position set up to where they were firing their coax machine gun. Coax machine gun is the machine gun that's on a tank. So the tank has its main gun, but then it has a coax machine gun to shoot simultaneous if the main gun's not being used. So the coax machine gun is shooting at the intersection where the exit road hits the Marag corridor to go west, because the IDF would use shooting as communication. They would shoot to communicate with the Marag corridor to go west, because the IDF would use shooting as communication. They would shoot to communicate with the Marag corridor to go west, because the IDF would use shooting as communication. They would shoot to communicate with the Marag corridor to go west, because the IDF would use shooting as communication. They would shoot to communicate with the Marag corridor to go west, because the IDF would use shooting as communication. They would shoot to communicate with the Marag corridor to go west, because the IDF would use shooting as communication. They would shoot to communicate with the Marag corridor to go west, because the IDF would use shooting as communication. They would shoot to communicate with the Marag corridor to go west, because the IDF would use shooting as communication. They would shoot to communicate with the Marag corridor to go west, because the IDF would use shooting as communication. They would shoot to communicate with the Marag corridor to go west, because the IDF would use shooting as communication with the Palestinians, hey, don't go this way. You know, if we're shooting here, don't go this way, go that way. And they would shoot at them at their feet and over their head to keep them moving. Well, when this last bit of this crowd had left because they were behind everybody else, they weren't with the main crowd because they were the slower individuals, the women, the children, the elderly. And when they were pushed out and they were panicking and they were running, the IDF had already started shooting at that intersection, and this small little group that remained just ran right into that gunfire. And some were wounded, some crawled away, some limped away, some carried each other away, and some died. And Amir was amongst them. And you know,
So you
what
saw him,
really
what
makes
did
me
you see
sad.
happen to Amir? Did you see him? One second, Brad. Can you put that away for a second, just because I want to. So what did you see happen to Amir? You saw him killed, or you just saw he was in the crowd of people who were shot at?
No, he was in that crowd, and then he was lying on the dirt, lying on the ground in the dirt amongst those that were lying on the ground in the dirt.
Okay, got it. Wow.
And
yeah.
And the
and is this the correct the coax machine gun you were referring to, Anthony?
yeah, that's
Would
built
that be
into the tank. All tanks have it. It's basically so the main gunner has another option to use. So if there's not a target that's suitable for a main tank round, 120 millimeter mortar round, they use the coax machine gun. So and it's a very distinct sound. Being in the Army for as long as I've been, the sound of the coax machine gun. And the so this in this incident, and I told the leadership there about this incident, and I told them that the way this is also on us, because the way the sites are designed, we have the sites in the middle of active combat zones. We're luring people into these combat zones.
Yeah, I mean, I think some people are like, oh, the GHF is they're inexperienced, they're dysfunctional, they can't handle this. But it's like, this is all a policy, right? I mean, they got rid of UNRWA, they banned the UN, and then they created this thing which has now 3 but 4. So they went from 400 distribution sites to 4. They have limited opening time. You're told over Telegram or how do you even know when the openings are, and how much lead time is there?
No, that's a great question. They're told over Signal Chat or Instagram or Telegram. Most don't have electricity, in all the time that I was there, I saw very few, if any. And I know some do have some. There are some capabilities for phone charging with some capability, but you don't. In the entire time I was there, I never saw a Palestinian on a location there with a phone. Amir certainly didn't have a phone.
Right.
So yeah, how do you know? There's this almost this hand wave of, oh, when it's time for distribution, we'll just make an announcement. Okay, make an announcement. How? Like, through what means? From who? To who? Like, oh, we don't know. Like, so you're not making an announcement. You're saying you are, but you're not. So it's this, there's the confusion amongst the civilian population, because as you said, there's only the 4 sites. Now there's only 3 because one is under construction. And out of those 3 sites, they're not all open every day. They're not all open at different times. There's really no system to it in terms of building routine. And we tried that in the beginning. We tried to build routine, and the IDF quickly put an end to that. And it struck me odd as to why, because I was like, we want routine in this. This is well, it'll become predictable. I'm like, that's exactly what we want. We want prediction. We want predictability. We're servicing the civilian population. Yes, we want predictability. That's the point. And it was just, we at one point we had morning distributions, what I thought were really good because it was still a little bit cooler out. And remember, we're giving them no water at all. This distribution, so when you think about humanitarian aid isn't just food. It's so many other things: clothes, education materials, fuel, propane, diapers, formula, vegetables, fruit, other things besides just dried food goods. And that's all we're giving them. Everything that we give them, they need water to cook it. And we're giving them no water, much less water to drink, which is also a necessity for human life. So, it's designed to fail, and it's intentionally designed to fail. So yeah, it's very confusing for the population in terms of which site to go to. What time do you go there? Which sites open up?
How much advance notice is there, and how long are they open for?
So how long they're open for? Now that's a great question, because this is a lot of people, they just have this in their mind that the aid opens up and it's just open all day. People can come through and get food. As an example, let's say we open at 5 a.m. and we said that we're going to open at 5 a.m. but the aid gets downloaded faster than we thought. So we have it there. So it's like, oh, let's open up at 4:30. Well, if you weren't there already, you ain't getting any. So then when they move the security line, everybody flushes to the site. I have timed it on multiple occasions with my stopwatch, and the average time, the fastest I've seen 25,200 boxes of aid go. The fastest I've seen it go off of one site is 6 minutes and 34 seconds.
So
the average is about 8 minutes. So the site's open for about 10 minutes.
Right. Okay.
That's
so yeah,
insane.
Yeah, this is all. I mean, it's a killing field. It's a death trap. It's luring them in. It's like reminds me of I've said this before, but I thought of like the gas chambers when you were told you were going to take a shower and you were actually gassed. And then Gabor Mate, who was a Holocaust survivor, he was a baby, but obviously he's studied this, and his family, he had family members, his grandparents were killed. He said it was like the way that they would get Jews out of the concentration camps onto the trains to go. Sorry, it's the way that they would get Jews out of the ghettos onto the trains, taking them to the concentration camps. They would lure them with food. And I was talking to Norman Finkelstein the other day, who talked about how it reminded him of his parents' experience in the camps, where they would give these huge vats of soup, but like it would have like only a few vegetables in it. So of course that like it's building in a competition, and it's building in stampedes, and it's building in like the survival of the fittest. I mean, it's like the most disgusting thing ever. So just think it's important for people to get this, that
that's a really good point.
Inability question. This is not a an incompetence question, right? It's just it's murder, and it's so sick. So you then tell this. Sorry, were you going to say something?
No, I think that's a great point. I mean, I hadn't the way you describe it and the way, that's a great point. And it just, the thought that hit me as you were saying that is that to orchestrate something to this degree, where it is so organized, intent to kill, doesn't happen by accident. It's deliberate. And if you think about it, and was the planning bad? No, the planning was actually exquisitely done, for the purpose of killing people. Yeah, right. So yeah, that's a really good point.
Because like I was watching the Sunday morning news shows, because we go over them, Aaron Mate and I, on Useful Idiots. And, you know, the most like critical things that were said about the GHF is like, they don't know what they're doing. The UN knows what they're doing. And they really are whitewashing it as a question of incompetence, as opposed to evil genocidal, an evil genocidal charade. I mean, it's actually worse than, you know, it's worse than just being incompetent. It's worse than just saying you're giving out aid and you're not. It's actually like deliberate, vile. It's vile. So you then share this story about Amir, right? And then is it Israel or is it GHF, or what entity then starts calling you a liar about that?
So I shared this picture with Amir, and you know what's ironic about this is that every picture that GHF had that they've used for all of their all of their things, from PR to everything else, I took those pictures. I was the one that was there taking pictures, taking video. So all the videos and pictures that they used to say, "Oh, look, this is what really happened." I'm like, well, I took that video, so I know what happened, and what happened is what I showed you. Like, you're not helping your case. So they took a photo of another little boy with a GHF Solutions contractor with his hand on his head, and this lawyer from GHF in his PowerPoint smearing of me press conference. I am kind of flattered that they dedicated an entire press conference to me. I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, so they're doing their little press conference, and he says, Mr. Aguilar says that this Amir was killed on this site. Well, here's a picture of Amir 2 days later at the same site. And you look at that picture, I took that picture, and I have the original metadata. And I'm like, well, that wasn't 2 days later. That was 4 days later. And that wasn't the same site. That was site number 4. Site number 4 and site number 2 are 26 kilometers away from each other. And if you're in the south, you can't get to the north. So there's no way that kid can be Amir. And it's also not, because when you put them next to each other, they don't look anything alike.
Right.
it's just it's one of these like all Palestinian kids look the same. Look, here's another brown kid. That's Amir. Tony's lying, and that they did it so just janky without concern of it even looking good. Like with AI technology out there now, they could have at least made it look good.
Yeah.
Like they didn't even care.
They think we're all really stupid. Yeah.
Like, yeah, here's Amir. And I was like, that's not Amir. That's first of all, again, I took that picture. That's at Site 4. That's on the 1st of June at 11:38 in the morning. I have the like, and that's
So
not
you took
Amir.
a picture of Amir
And
and,
then they're
of
like,
the other boy. Is that correct?
yeah, so I did this in the when I provided it to Crystal for the debunking, and I'll send it to you if you want to post it too. But
Sure, yeah.
it's Amir and a picture of this boy they said was Amir
Right.
next to each other. They don't even look alike. Not even in like they wouldn't even be fraternal twins. They don't look alike at all.
Right.
And just that level of disgustingness to try to discredit someone to where can't we all just as human beings agree that the killing of a small child, whether it was accidental, intentional, deliberate, evil, just negligence, just regardless of how it happened, can we all as human beings agree that that is horrible and that we should do things to prevent that from happening again? But GHF, instead of saying like, hey, we need to review our procedures, we need to make the sites more safe, they choose the path of, oh, that didn't happen. And then vilely and disgustingly lie about it. And then on top of that, from that picture that went out that I took of Amir, an NGO in Gaza, an NGO they contacted me and they said, hey, what site, what time, what day? And I told them. And so they took the picture and they went on kind of like backtrack to try to figure out where he was. Cause they were like, I didn't at the site. So you got to think on the secure distribution sites, they're completely walled in with gates and we can't leave them. I can't leave the site. So I couldn't go out there to do triage or recover his body. I mean, it was out in combat zone, no man's land, where there's tanks and stuff going on. And so, this people that got the picture, there's a small chance that maybe he is alive. So they went to go look, and they found his mother. His father died in an airstrike. His mother has been looking for him since he disappeared on the morning of the 28th. So he was there alone because his father's dead and his mother wasn't there. We're the last ones that saw him live. That picture that I provided for her, she saw that and she showed us pictures of like, yeah, here's Amir, and here's his full name and his nickname's Amir, and here's other pictures of him, and she showed me the pictures of him, and it's like, okay, well, that's definitely if not his mother, definitely a close family member. And she's like, yeah, we've been searching for him ever since the 28th, and this was a couple days ago. So what are we in now? August. So, a good bit of time that she's been looking for her missing child. So when you hear stories about Palestinian children going missing, it's true. Whether they were killed or missing or this is my belief, and it's dark and it's sad, but this is my belief because I've seen what they do. That where the roads exit from each of the sites, they're dirt roads, sand, and they go into the Marag corridor. Each day when you have thousands of people running on these roads, they get pretty churned up. So every day after we do distribution, the IDF bring in one of those D9 bulldozers and they flatten the path again to pack everything down. I personally believe that Amir and many others, hundreds of others, are buried in the sand and rubble out and near the vicinity and around those distribution sites.
And we actually have video of one of his family members, Amir's family member. I believe this is from Middle East Eye.
Middle East Eye had it, but there was also another Al Jazeera picked it up as well. There was a few others, but I think this particular one is from Middle East Eye.
Okay.
الطفل أمير ذهب إلى المساعدات للحين مفقود.
And this is his. Do you know the relationship?
I think this was the uncle that he was going to go to the site with, that he got separated from when the IDF. So when they're coming down from, like, let's say Khan Yunis down the coastal road to the Marag corridor, the IDF will shoot at them to keep them on the route. It's very frightening for kids. So families get separated all the time. It's very common. It's very common to see children on the sites without parents, or parents on the sites looking for their children. That's very common.
Right.
الطفل أمير ذهب إلى المساعدات، للحين مفقود، مصير مجهول. بنناشد كل أحرار العالم نعرف وين هذا الطفل الحين، وهو مفقود للحين للحظة هذه مش موجود. وشفتوا كل القصة تبعته، راح يجيب أكل مساعدات إنسانية وللحين مفقود. وهي أما وكلهم حزينين عليه. هو لقبه أمير، اسمه عبد الرحيم محمد حمدين الجرابع. وضع مأساوي جدا علينا وعلى غيرنا، على كل الناس، مأساوي جدا. هو مش أول طفل ولا آخر طفل، هذا كيان إسرائيلي يستهدف الأطفال. طفل لا حول له ولا قوة، يريد الطعام، قتلوه رموه بالنار وبالغاز السام. نطالب كل الدول والمؤسسات نعرف مصير هذا الطفل.
فأنا بناشد الصليب إنه يتوجه، إنه يشوف لي وين عبد الرحيم. توجه لأي مكان، توجه للجنود، توجه لإشي. يعني أنا لازم أعرف عبد الرحيم لوين راح. فهذه الظروف الوضع صعب على الكل، كلنا وضعنا صعب جدا. أي إشي بسيط راضين وقايلين الحمد لله. فأبوه شهيد وأنا مفتخرة إن جوزي شهيد. أمير كانت طفولته حلوة كتير. أمير كان صح يتحرك ويجيب، كان أبسط أي إشي تبسطه. لو جاب باكيت سباكيتا يقول أنا جبت باكيت سباكيتا، كان فرحان جدا، فرحان إنه جاب باكيت سباكيتا. فالحين إحنا كنا زعلانين عليه. فأنا بناشد الصليب للمرة الثانية أن أعرف وين جثة عبد الرحيم راحت. توجهت للثلاجات، توجهت للصليب، توجهت لكل المستشفيات، فقالوا لا، ما أجتنا جثة الطفل هذا خالص. فأنا بناشد يعني للمرة الأخيرة بناشد الصليب إنه يعرف لي وين الجثة راحت. هو بيروح لحاله إنه يحب إنه يجيب أي شيء يجري. بعدين أنا لو شفت عبد الرحيم رايح للمساعدات لا أنا رجعته، لا أنا قعدته. فيش، إحنا بنروح بنخاطر على حالنا عشان نجيب. فيش حدا بيصرف عليا، فيش. أنا قريبة من منطقة الطينة، أما منطقة الشاكوش أنا بعيدة عنها. فأنا ما توقعت إنه يكون في الشاكوش، ما توقعتش. ففاجأت لما سمعت إنه منزلين صورته الأمريكاني استقال عشانه الأمريكاني. فهو بس إيد الأمريكاني من الفرحة إنه أخ استلم. أنا هي اللي أنا بناشد الصليب للمرة الأخيرة إنه يشوف لي الولد وين، بس يشوفه عشان إحنا نعرف وين الولد راح. أنا بدي أشوف وين. من الصبح طالعة من مستشفى لمستشفى لمستشفى، حتى الأردني توجهت له، حتى الثلاجات تو فتحتهم أتفرج عليهم. فقالوا لي يا أختي ما جناش هذا، ولا مستشفى راضية تتعرف إن جت الجثة. وين راحت الجثة؟
راح ما رجع، وفقدناه ولقينا الفيديو نازل على النت. ودورت، رحت على الصليب، سألت عنه، جيت مع عناصر سألت، ما لقيت الجثة خالص، ما لقيت ولا حاجة. بيلعب في مساعدات قريبات، يعني فيش مسافة عنا، يعني على الشارع الناس اللي تمرق منا عنا. بروح مع العالم الماشي زي العالم، يعني لا ونزل عنه الأجنبي هذا الأمريكي، نزل عنه إعلان، ما شفنا غير الإعلان عندنا على النت. هو بضل عند خاله وبضل عنا، بروح يعني وبجي، وبكل فكرنا عند خاله، ما بندري غير إن الإعلان منزل عنا. ورحت على الصليب وعناصر، ما لقيت الجثة خالص، مش عارف احنا جثة ابننا وين راح. احنا بنطالب ان نشوف الولد يا ميت يا عايش، بنطالب الجهات الدولية، بنطالب بكل الدنيا نشوف الطفل وين.
مصيره مجهول حتى الآن.
للحين رحت ما خليت مطرح انا بدور.
Okay, so and then they talked about you. So yeah, so much for that lie. I mean, I almost feel dirty even mentioning it, but yeah, it's like obviously, you know. Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, the discussion that we're having now reminds me of kind of the larger discussion that we're having about Gaza, which is that we now see a lot of people who are finally critical of Israel. And now what is happening, critical of Israel. And what is happening in Gaza is being framed as a humanitarian crisis and a disaster. And I think the reason it's easier for people to now criticize Israel is because they're doing it in a way that makes it seem like not an intentional policy of genocide, despite the proclamations of countless Palestinians have been saying that from the beginning. And then when experts who are Jewish or experts who are Israeli say it, then it gets taken seriously. But it's important to remember that Palestinians and other genocide experts have been saying this. But now people are, I think, kind of trying to make this seem like an unfortunate thing that just happens in war.
That's
like a similar. So, yeah, I mean, I think that it's they're really trying to whitewash it and normalize it as disaster as opposed to genocide.
Yeah, I would welcome anyone to sit down at a table with me and talk about war and
Yeah.
talk about how bad and how brutal war is. And you're right, it is. This is not war. This is designed genocide. This is designed annihilation. This is deliberate. This you don't accidentally trip your way into genocide. It's
Right.
planned. It's systematic. It's designed. The way the sites are designed to move, it's no different than putting people on a train and driving and taking them to a concentration camp. Instead, they have to walk to go to these camps. It's no different than, why are we afraid to call it what it is? Like, why are we afraid to say, like, that's what you're doing? Oh, no. We're not displacing people. We are, and again, at a GHF conference, they said, they're like, Mr. Aguilar is detracting from our mission of feeding a starving and displaced population. I'm like, you
Right.
just said it. You just said it. A starving and displaced population.
Right.
You just said it. Oh, no. I meant hungry and moving around. It's like,
Oh, right. So they're
they
denying
can't
their
even not,
starvation.
they
Right,
can't
right,
even not say it
right.
themselves.
Right. But of course, according to them, it's like they're starving because Hamas, they'll say, or they're starving because it's war, right? So they're not going to say they're starving because Israel is imposing a starvation siege. So yeah, I think it's really important. And I even have relatives like I've disagreed with on this. And I think I brought this up last week or the week before. And, we've disagreed. She considers me, I don't know, probably a self-loathing Jew. I consider her an Israel apologist. And then she was kind of like, well, let's just agree that the important thing isn't to assign blame. It's like, no, actually, if we don't assign blame now, we can't fix it. Because if you're not honest about the genocidal people in charge of this, it's going to continue. It's not like, it's like pretend, like saying someone is like, there's a mass murderer and people keep dying. And
Well, if you weren't alive, you couldn't die. So because you were alive, it's your fault that you died, not his fault.
yeah,
It's just
like that.
unfortunate.
That's
And it's
parallel,
like,
right?
no,
Yeah.
there's blame there.
Right. Or it's like there's a mass murderer and you keep arming him. And if you say, don't arm this mass murderer, people are like, why are you we're just trying to put our heads together and come together as a community and find, and try to save this guy's life by arming. I mean, I can't think, it's so preposterous, but there's an analogy out there, but
Yeah,
where you pretend that it's getting in the way
yeah.
of life saving when you're actually just further arming and funding the person responsible for it. So, I think it's really important for people to realize that this is not just some unfortunate accident. And then I just wanted to say, like, has this made you question your kind of worldview in any way? I just want to be transparent. Like, I think it's really important that you're speaking out. And I think it's really important that you have your world vision and view, because you definitely will reach people who I don't. Because I think that, when you talk about American values, I think that there are values and ideals that were enshrined in theory, maybe. But I don't think we've ever really lived up to them as a nation. And maybe to some extent. And I don't think that our military has done good since World War II. And I'm just wondering, and I guess I want to say that because I want to be honest with you, so you know where I'm coming from. I'm wondering if, and because I don't want to like talk down to you, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to like pretend I don't disagree with you, and not in a like a personal attack way. But
No, I enjoy disagreement. So disagree with me.
Yeah. Does it change, like, seeing this not as what is it called? It's not a glitch. It's a feature. It's not a bug. It's a feature. Like, seeing this as a systemic thing as opposed to an accident or a one-off. Does it change the way you kind of see the military industrial complex, the way that the West works?
It doesn't change the way that I've seen it, because I've seen it that way a very long time. I haven't been blind to the things that I've seen. I've and maybe this is just naive and being an idealist, but I believe in the American values. Maybe maybe we don't live them all the time, and maybe our country hasn't lived them in a while, but I still believe in them. I still believe in equality, and that people shouldn't be oppressed, and that we shouldn't be engaging in the world with military industrial complex for money and creating wars to make people rich. I still believe in the ideals that this country was founded on. So every time I've deployed to go to war, I went with the purpose and the thought of ideals. I saw different. I wasn't dumb to it. I'm not naive. But what I witnessed in Gaza is at a scale
Right.
that I've never seen before. And it's in a way that it's just so blatantly apparent, like not even, it's so in your face that they don't even care that they're doing it, which scares me, because when you're not ashamed of doing something anymore, that means that it's become accepted. And this cannot be accepted. Like, it cannot be. The thought that an entire group of people is worthless and should be killed because they're no good, especially by the people that are doing it, considering their history. And it's like,
Yeah.
like it scares me. And in my years in the military and the things I've seen in the places I've been, I've questioned that for a long time. I'm not blind. I just it's something that I didn't in my career that I wasn't willing to walk away from and give up on. It's almost like when you're in a codependent relationship. You're like, I need that to make me feel good. You need me to make this. And it's like, almost, that was my military career, was like this codependency. Like, I need that to feel like I have purpose. They need me to serve because they need people. It's this codependent relationship to where you live through it, and you realize, like, you're hoping like tomorrow's going to be different. Tomorrow's going to be better.
Right.
So yeah, I haven't been blind to the fact of how the U.S. and how the West has engaged in the world in a way that I don't think is appropriate, and that I think that we could do things a lot better. And I think really in Gaza, and maybe it was that moment that, I wasn't going to go on the record. I wasn't going to say anything after I terminated my contract and I left. The war with the engaging of sending of missiles back and forth to each other. The war in Iran was going on, and I was in Beersheba, and I spent hours on end going back and forth between bomb shelters. The hotel across the street from where I was living got hit by a missile. So I couldn't just leave out of Tel Aviv. I left and I went east out of Jerusalem and crossed into the West Bank and crossed through Jericho to get into Jordan, to fly home from Jordan to Amman, just to get out. So while I was there, I went to the old city, and because of the war, it was empty. There was no one there. Like, it was practically empty with the exception of very, very few people. And it was still open to walk around, just nobody there. So I went to the Wailing Wall. I went to the Western Wall, and I walked up to it, and at first I felt like, this is cheesy, like I don't want to do it, but I just felt compelled. And there was another a Jewish man that was there, and he was praying, and he looked at me, and he kind of gave me this gesture to pray. And so I walked up to the wall, and I placed my hand on it, and I know this sounds cheesy and this just sounds stupid, but I don't care, because it's my experience. But I just felt at that moment where that little boy looked at me and he said, "Thank you." And I felt that the world needs to know about this. Are there other atrocities in the world that the world needs to know about? I'm sure there is. I'm not there for that. If I can be a vessel and a messenger for this message for a people that are being, the world has to know what's going on and has to know the truth, because shame on us if 2 weeks or a month from now, when we see the true devastation of this, for us to clutch our pearls and say, "Oh, we didn't know." No, we're gonna know. You're gonna look. It's kind of like when in World War II, when the U.S. Army found concentration camps, they made every German citizen from that town go and take a tour. You're gonna see this. America needs to see it. The world needs to see it, because we're all standing by and watching, because because what they don't. Oh well, they don't matter because they're Palestinians, or Palestinians are a real thing, or they don't have their own country, or they're not this, or they're not. Forget about all that. Forget about the politics. Forget about the names. Forget about the title. How about human beings? Can we just say that? Can we just say human beings and just understand that that is not how human beings engage in the world? And if they were going down that road, that it's okay to treat people that way, whether it's one person or 10,000 people, that we have lost our way. It's not okay. And we will regret this as a society. We will regret this if we turn our head and look the other way. And when by the time we realize we regret it, it will be too late. So what do we want to do? We want to have a monument somewhere in Khan Yunis that says, here's once we're 20,000 people? Or do we want to have people alive because we did something?
Yeah, it's interesting. You reminded me of something, that description of when you keep going back and you keep going back. I'm trying to think what it is. There's something else. It's like, you have to is it almost like you have to keep fighting in wars because if you don't do something good through it, you'll have to look back and realize like it was all for naught?
Sunk cost theory. You think that I've put in so much to this so long that if I don't
Yeah.
keep going, then yeah, it's exactly like keep deploying and going to war. It's that I have to do the next best thing to make it worth it. I have to do the next best thing to make it, to justify what I had done. Like I have to keep doing this to make it, to justify what I've been doing. And, this opens up a whole nother topic, but I think that's why a lot of veterans, when they retire or get out, deal with PTSD and so much guilt, because you realize that you're chasing something that you're never going to find the end of that rainbow.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Do you feel guilt over certain things? Not obviously speaking out.
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't. Not because what I've seen hasn't been horrific, but throughout my entire military career, for example, the entire time I was in Gaza, I did not pull the trigger on my rifle one time. I did not throw one grenade. I did not spray one drop of pepper spray. I didn't need to. Hurting people doesn't get me off. Seeing people hurt doesn't make me happy. And if there's not a need, why do it? That's just barbaric. That's narcissistic. That's evil. Throughout my military career, when I have had to use deadly force to eliminate an enemy and did it, I did it with every clear state of my mind that what I was doing was doing it with purpose. I think guilt comes in when people do things with purpose and they do it as an excuse to do it and then regret it later. It's kind of like, if you're on a diet and you're like, I shouldn't eat that whole pizza, and you do, right. And afterwards you're like, oh man, I shouldn't have done that. Sometimes things are tempting. Like when you're in war and you have 2,000-pound bombs to drop on people that the rest of the world doesn't care about, and you can do it and get away with it, seems fun. For some people, it's like, yeah, let's do it. And then afterwards, there's that guilt and that regret. I don't feel guilt from my military service, but what I do feel is a sense of regret in terms of I should have done more to speak out against things that I had seen and things that happened. And I felt that in the military, if you speak out, then you're out. And I'm like, well, if I'm out, then I can't fix it and I can't change it. So it's an incipient balance of this, like I said, of this codependency. But I've searched my soul a long time in my before I got out and in getting out. And it's something that honestly, I haven't ever felt true, like guilt in the sense of like, I did that for the wrong reason and now I feel bad. Have I made mistakes? Sure. Do I have regrets for the mistakes that I've made and things that I wish that didn't happen? Sure. But to say that I have guilt over it, no, because I felt that in the moment, in the time, that I was making decisions for the right moral, ethical reason. And you'll actually be surprised that a lot of veterans that have seen the worst of war, not people that have deployed and watch war movies or play Call of Duty and want to quote unquote get their gun on, they want to go kill somebody. Veterans that have seen real war that devastates, that brings you to your knees. I think a lot of them feel the way I do, that war is not something we want to keep engaging in our world. When I see stickers out there that said, hey, give war a chance, war, not peace, that I think to myself, that person, they haven't seen it. And they'll tell you, well, I've been deployed before. It's like, okay, well, there's being deployed somewhere, and then there's actually being in something that's when you rack up things like, like Fallujah or Sadr City, 2006 going into Sadr City, we were the first. My battalion was one of the first battalions to go into Sadr City when Sadr City was still an enclave and no one was going in. And it was, from the things that I've seen in life, I know that the road that Israel is going down with regard to Gaza, with the U.S. and others marching right along with them, is a bad place. It's a bad road to go down. I don't have to wait and see. I know how it's going to end, and it's going to end in a way that there's going to be condemnation and there's going to be blame. It may not be today, but it's coming. There's a day of reckoning where there will be blame and there will be condemnation. And the United States can stand as a democracy with values and say no, or we can continue to walk down that road to the point of condemnation and be condemned with it. And as an American, I don't want that.
Right. It's interesting because there's someone I've interviewed on the show before who's really great. His name is Ahmed Twaij. He's he's English, but he's Iraqi, like of Iraqi origin. Like his parents are from Iraq.
Okay.
And he's very left. He's like me. And he's a doctor, and he went to like work in refugee camps as a doctor when like ISIS was on the rise. And then he actually turned into, and he still does this. He still practices medicine, but he also does journalism and filmmaking. And he actually was working with us on the documentary we're working on about Holocaust survivors speaking out against the genocide. But I bring him up because he sees it kind of, I guess, like I do, which is that it's like Gaza is bad on a level. I mean, I oppose the wars in not just Iraq, but also in Afghanistan. And I think the first Iraq war was bad too, like the good one. Even though obviously it was good, quote unquote, for like the US in terms of like, not that this to me is the measure of it. Not many American soldiers died, but they did get Gulf War syndrome, and that's a whole other story. But obviously Iraqis died, and there was like the highway of death where they were retreating, and it was a total war crime. That was just the first Iraq war. And then we know there were war crimes in Iraq, the second Iraq war crimes in Afghanistan. But I do think there's a difference in that this has been just genocide and ethnic cleansing. And I do think there's also a difference because despite the war crimes, there were attempts. There were so Ahmed talks about this, having been in Iraq, and he says that there were safe corridors. So they would say, everyone leave, and we're just going to fight ISIS. And then they would leave, and they wouldn't, unlike in the case of Gaza, they wouldn't bomb them while they were leaving. But I do think that there are levels.
Safe passage corridors to say, we're going to conduct a military operation in this area. We're going to provide you safe passage in a very specific way, in a very deliberate, planned way, with a plan to then safeguard those people and then bring them back. That's different than displacing people. Displacing people is, we're going to conduct war here. We're going to starve you out, and we're going to put food down south to get you to go take the food so it doesn't look like we're moving you. And then we're going to force you to move. And while you're away for the weekend, we're going to blow the shit out of your neighborhood. There's a difference between
you, right? Like, and blow you up while you're in the safe passage corridors. Because those are famously places where people would actually.
And what people don't realize is that if you're Gaza, if you are north of the Marag corridor, which is a militarized corridor that separates Gaza City. So remember, not all of Gaza's, Gaza City. Gaza City is north of the Netzarim corridor and Jabalia. That area has been completely isolated since March. Nothing going in. So, and no one's gone in to see it. And just these past couple days, when aircraft are going in doing airdrops, Israel said no reporters, no photographers, but everybody's got a phone nowadays. So the Jordanian crew and the Spaniards crew and the French crew that flew the planes to drop took video and pictures, and they came back to their governments and they were like, you're not going to believe this. So the world is waking up, and when the world looks at this and says, hey, we need to go down there and take a look. Forget about not say forget about, but the rest of Gaza that everybody hears about when Bert and Ernie, that's who I call Witkoff and Huckabee, when Bert and Ernie went to Gaza to go take a picnic at one of the sites, they rolled out green turf. They put out this fancy table. They had water bottles for them. What a slap in the face to to have these people visit and give them a bottle of water, where the people that are starving, we give them no water. The level of tone deaf narcissism never ceases to amaze me. And while they're there, this right here, that sign they made, 100 million meals served. In the beginning, when we first got there, I had asked, when the Palestinians come down the corridor to turn left, instead of shooting at them, why don't we put a sign out there that says turn left? Well, signs are too expensive and they'll just get damaged and we'll have to keep rebuying them. Oh, so it's about money. But we can spend money to put a sign to celebrate our mediocrity. 1 million meals, we're starving the population.
Evil.
It just blows my mind.
Yeah.
Really quickly, Anthony, I was wondering, because
Yeah,
Katie mentioned
it's out of this world in terms of the ridiculousness of the like, for me, like I've provided videos of shooting for the IDF to say, oh, that wasn't us. I'm like, you can see the tank shooting. Like, what are you talking about? It's not you. Like, you're shooting. Wasn't us. Prove it. I have proof. No, who was it? You don't know who it was. It's like that's the level of ridiculous we've come to now, to where it's like, really, that's the game we're gonna play.
So it seems like you just said, a difference between what things are supposed to be on paper and what the reality is. Correct me if I'm wrong, but is it on paper, at least, U.S. military personnel both have an obligation to obey lawful orders, but also a duty to disobey orders that are illegal or violate the Uniform Code of Military Justice or international law?
Well, so for the Israeli military, I don't know what their UCMJ like rules are. I don't know what it is for the IDF. Right. I would imagine that it would be similar, but I have no idea. Now, for the contractors that were there on the ground, that were mostly ex-military, this is not a military contractor. People see it differently. People say, well, I'm not in the military anymore, so I don't have an obligation to any of that shit. They're entitled to that opinion. My opinion is that, having served for 25 years as an officer who swore an oath to the Constitution, when I got out of the Army, I didn't unswear my oath. I didn't, redo it and say, oh, no more oath. I lived it, and I'm living it. And I think that when you see something that violates the principles of international law, of humanitarian law, of the Geneva Convention, or just basic decent humanity, like, why would you give a starving population food that they need water to cook and then give them no water to either drink or cook with? Why would you do that? Like, you shouldn't have to have a book of rules to tell you not to be a dick.
Right. No, absolutely.
Sorry.
So no. But so then it would seem then kind of the loophole here is, okay, it's not technically U.S. military involvement, but rather it's just contractors who may have been former military personnel.
Former military on an independent contract, who are in Israel on a tourist visa. And what I've told all of my contract peers that are still there is, like, y'all better be careful. You're there on a tourist contract. And when the world sees this shit show and accountability comes a knocking, what's your legal recourse? Like, if I'm in Afghanistan and I'm in a battle with the Taliban and I accidentally a civilian is killed, I'm not going to get charged with murder for that. I'm not going to go to jail for that. I have protections of a status of forces agreement. I'm there under the Title 10 authority of the Constitution to use lethal force. If I'm in Gaza and on a tourist visa, what authority do I have to pull the trigger at all? I have zero authority to be doing that. So it's all kinds of makes you scratch your head to be. And my opinion is, the way that Israel has pulled us in so close on this journey with them, this journey on the bus to Abilene, as I like to call it, and that when the world stops to look, Israel's going to be like, oh, you got me, but I wasn't alone. Look who's here with me, huh?
Yeah.
Uncle Sam's here with me. So it's going to get me out of this one.
And to what Katie had asked you about, had your experiences changed your views of the world or the West, I would also ask, has this altered your view of what you perceived as international law and things like that? Or did you always have an opinion that, that's just what they say?
As an officer, you get a lot of training and education, deeply educated on international humanitarian law, law of armed conflict, LOAC, Geneva Convention. So like these are things that I've always like, for example, as a second lieutenant, 22-year-old platoon leader in, you know, the Second Battle of Fallujah and Mosul and Sadr City and Anbar, was I ever faced with dilemmas where you had to make decisions between risk, life, death, and following international law? Every day. Every day. Like, oh my God, there's this giant group of people and a dude just came out of the crowd and took a pop shot at us. Mow everybody down. No.
Right.
You have to take everything into account. You have like, if you're in a crowded area and one lone gunman comes out and pops a pop shot at you, could you then say, oh, we were under threat and mow everybody down? Well, you could if you're a psycho, but you look at that situation, you're like, okay, calm down. Like, let's assess the situation. Let's like, I've always approached it that way, not only because of international humanitarian law, Geneva Convention, the laws of armed conflict, but because I like to consider myself to be a decent human being, and I don't value killing for the purpose of just killing. Have the decisions that I've made and actions that I have done led to the death of combatants and people that I have fought in war? Yes. Have I done so in understanding the laws of armed conflict and what the rules in doing so and what laws apply to it? Yes. So going into Gaza, the laws and humanitarian law and Geneva Convention wasn't new to me. It was just so blatantly in your face. Like when we went to the distribution sites with the IDF to do a reconnaissance before we started using them for distribution, they gave us a map, and I looked at the map, and it was their battle map where they had all their combat units, their tactical graphics operations, and they showed us the distribution sites, and I was like, the distribution sites are in the middle of operational combat zone. And they were like, so? It's like, what do you mean so? Like that we can't do that. We by law, by international, we cannot do that. Oh no, we got everything's fine. I'm like, but
Well,
fine
so-
by who? Who said
Right.
that?
Right. So I guess just to further clarify, my question was, I guess, and I what you just said, thank you for all of that. But I guess what my intention in asking it was less so your understanding on a personal level and more of kind of like on a macro level. I think we could probably both agree that we're seeing international laws on the top level in terms of like the world and countries and whatnot. It seems to like not matter, you know, the blatant violation of these sorts of things. Like, so
it has no teeth.
Yeah. So has
it has no
has your understanding in that regard, have you always had an understanding like, oh yeah, that's just on paper, or did you used to think that was really a thing and your
I've throughout my entire career, even recently getting out, those were things that were always a thing and that had teeth and that had bite and had value and that we enforced. So the fact that we're not in Gaza leads me to believe why not? Like, did the law lose its bite? Or do we just not care about who the law applies to in this case? Which scares me because
the precedent that would set and
that's right. It's not just the one-time case; it's the precedent that it sets.
Right.
Anyway,
but there have been war crimes. I mean, there have been war crimes or violations of international law during other wars, right? It's just not at this scale.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yes. I mean, there's even through wars and conflicts that we have fought, even recently in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, and yes, absolutely. And people have been held accountable for them, like the Sergeant Bales in 2ID in Afghanistan when he went into a village and killed civilians. Yeah, he court-martialed and went to Leavenworth for that. Yeah, we hold people. These things happen. And I'm not saying that it's excusable, it's justified, but when they happen, like for example, if you get into a car accident and it's your fault, it doesn't mean you're a horrible driver. It doesn't mean that you're the worst person. It doesn't mean that nothing's bad going to happen. But there's a responsibility. You have insurance. It goes against your claim. This and that. If you're going around your neighborhood every day and intentionally just running your car into everybody, that's not an accident. So it's like, and that's what I feel like with Israel in Gaza. It's not the accident in traffic, bloom, oh sorry, my bad, like, hey, let's take care of this, let's do it right. It's just driving through your neighborhood and hitting everybody's car because you just don't care about the consequences, because the world is not holding you accountable to any consequences and you're getting away with it. And you drive your car home and you park it in the parking lot and everybody's car is screwed up and nobody holds you accountable.
Yeah.
It's what it feels like. I don't know why the international community is afraid to call things what they are by definition. Like, well, that's not genocide. Oh, okay, then what is it? What is it then?
And what do you think happened to Amir's body, by the way?
Oh, like I said, I think that unfortunately, I think that his body, along with many others, hundreds of others, potentially even more, are buried in the rubble and in the ground in the vicinity near or at those sites. Because after distribution, they come through with those big bulldozers and they just clear everything to almost like doing a Zamboni on the ice in hockey, re-smooth it. They come and grade it and do that. So yeah, it would not shock me one bit if in the days that when this ends, if people did archaeological surveys around these sites and found buried dead bodies. It wouldn't be the first time in history that that's happened.
Right. Yeah, and I do think that it's, it's tempting to look at the US as just like kind of doing Israel's bidding and being strong-armed by Israel. But of course, Israel could not do this without the US. So this is, I think it was Mearsheimer who said it was Gaza's war. No, that was about Ukraine. Sorry. But this was Gaza, this is Netanyahu's genocide. And it's also was Biden's genocide. And now it's Trump's genocide. And the other thing that's really disturbing, and a lot of people I don't think are ready to look at this, but is that there's a guy I know actually. Oh, you may like his book. It's called An Army Like No Other, How the Israel Defense Forces Made a Nation. Haim Rashid Zabner. He's a friend and he's a character in the documentary we're making. He's the son of survivors. And,
I will definitely grab that and read it. I love to read, so
yeah,
definitely.
And he says that this is the most democratic genocide in history, meaning that in modern history, probably he would say, meaning that, it isn't just fringe elements as much as Israel defenders like to pretend, like a majority of Israelis think that the IDF is using either the right amount or not enough force. And it's a small minority that thinks they're using too much.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think at the time it was something like 4%.
Oh, wow.
Like
that little, yeah. Yeah.
Well, so about 2 weeks ago now, time has been crunched together over the last 2 weeks, but about 2 weeks ago, through a podcast called Unacceptable, that is primarily
what is
that's
it?
where you found me?
What? Yeah. No, not somewhere I found you. That's where we found the video. It was Trita Parsi tweeted out a clip of that where you talk about Amir. Yeah.
Yeah. So Unacceptable. They're based in Israel, and they really try to, they're an organization that's trying to fight for the democracy of Israel, to fight for Israel's democracy back. And I spoke, and on one of the nights I did a discussion, there were a few thousand Israelis on it that are all, I wouldn't say waking up to, but starting to see things in a different way. Thursday, I'm talking to J Street podcast. That's all influential Israeli Jews in DC that want to hear this. And it's about, to me, this is not a discussion of politics. This is a discussion of humanity. This is a discussion of our values in the world. If people want to politicize it,
I'm happy that you were on this show. I gotta say, J Street is not. They're not going to be happy, but it's okay. They'll let them try to go after you. I mean, yeah, it's other people have. They were not very. They're now saying it's genocide, but they were not saying it's genocide for a very, very, very long time. But now no one can say it's not genocide because I mean, what's really messed up, and I've been talking about this a lot, is that Palestinians were saying this is genocide for so long. Palestinians were saying it was apartheid for so long. And I understand that there's it is more shocking when someone who is Israeli or who denies it's genocide then changes their mind. But it is true that Palestinians have been saying for so long that this has been genocide. But J Street is now saying it's genocide, but they were not very good on this.
Oh yeah, I haven't. It's not like I've been on their books for weeks. They just picked me. I just got asked today. So things are changing.
Yeah.
There's momentum here that we have to keep
because they're
keep reminding people of this. And again, people, once I get involved in something, I will fight ferociously and I will be fully invested in it. And for me, I had never been to, I'd never been to Gaza. You know, I'd never been there. I read what other people read. I see what other people see. I can formulate an opinion. I can hear a side. I can hear a side. And it's like one of those things until you really know, it's hard to fight for it with your soul when you're going off of in second or third hand information. And I'm not saying that it's not as valuable and that the facts aren't the facts and it's not true.
Right.
But when you see something and you feel it, when you have a connection with a human being that dies as a result of it, when you see the death, when you see the starvation, and it's something that haunts you at night, like you start to want to fight for it with your soul. And so that's the way I feel now, is that I get it. I'm not, you know, I'm staying away from the political opinion side of it. My position on this is like, this is not just a battleground for identity and for the Palestinians and to stop genocide. This is a battleground for human dignity. This is a battleground for values that we have as human beings around the world. I mean, like tomorrow I'm doing a show for Tokyo Broadcast Station. The world wants to hear this. Doing Australia on Thursday. So
how many legacy? Someone in the chat wrote, how many legacy media outlets have invited you on? Like,
I have done every single media outlet in the world, practically, from Mother Jones to Tucker Carlson to CNN to ABC to Reuters to Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Washington Post. The only outlet in the entire world that has not contacted me is Fox News, and I'm okay with that.
Oh wow, yeah,
doesn't surprise me.
Of course, yeah. And another question is, you've been so generous with your time. I hope you come back because I have so many more questions for you. And I know
I would love to. This is great. This is important.
Yeah. So how did UG Solutions advertise the job, and how did that match up with what you were actually tasked with?
So I don't know if they advertised the job. Again, I retired in March. I was working at Lowe's Home and Garden, you know, taking the kid to school in the morning, making breakfast, walking the dog, selling weed eaters at Lowe's. Like, this was not an endeavor. This is not something I wanted to do. I was not looking into it. I got a phone call from UG Solutions on May 13th that said, "Hey, you're recently retired, special operations. We're looking for people to hire for this contract. Are you interested?" I was like, "Well, give me your 30-minute pitch." And they did. And I was like, "Okay, so we're going to go into Gaza to secure and deliver humanitarian aid." And I was like, "Okay." And they said, "This is not like your normal mission where, you know, you're going to go do, you know, offensive stuff and be a military guy. This is humanitarian aid." I'm like, "Well, I get it. I understand. And thank you." And so I started to look up some stuff on UG Solutions, and there's not much out there at all. They just stood up as a company. Safe Reach Solutions, the prime contract, there's even less out there about them. GHF, there's even less about them. They don't even, like I said, they don't even have a website. What kind of supposed NGO doesn't have a website that publishes their financials? Why won't GHF tell people where their money's coming from? You know, it just kind of, I didn't know those things going in, but they kind of pitched it as a, you know, that we were going to do things the right way. They pitched it in, you know, when we had our meeting, that you're going to receive a rules of engagement. You're going to receive training on how to do this. You're going to be very respectful towards the population. We need guys that are used to being in risky situations so you can understand and accept risk. So you're comfortable in a risky environment. So you're not responding to it with immediate action type of things. I thought we were going to do all of those things. And I quickly learned that all of those things went out the window almost instantly with day one being on the ground. And part of me feels that was deliberate. Part of me feels that there was never an intention to do it right. Part of me feels that with the confluence of inexperience, laziness, ignorance, arrogance, and the strong desire to make millions and millions and millions of dollars drove this into where it is now. But I can't ignore the fact that even if all of this was a bumbling idiots into the fray, the sites themselves were built, finished, and completed before we ever got there. So this isn't by accident, it's by design. And we are its willing victim. We are its willing, compliant partner.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I honestly, if people want to see you did a really good job. I don't want to waste time on it. You debunked the smears on breaking
And
points.
there'll be more. They're gonna keep coming after me, which is
Yeah. But that's so we'll put that in. I don't think, I mean, I just always get distracted by comments, and of course some people are like, whoa, what about this, what about that? But and then just to summarize, any final thoughts from you about like how is this changing what you're going to do moving forward? Because you talked about having this codependent relationship with the military. It also reminds me, your description also reminds me when people are like, oh, I have to stay in this thing because I can help it from the inside, and then they realize it's actually not reformable. So, which doesn't mean they don't come from a good place, but if I leave this, then then there'll be no good people in here, whatever. But how what's next for you, like professionally?
Well, I think once I get the story out and either people make change or we don't, once I put the truth out as best as I know how, I'm hoping that I can. So right now, because I am retired and I get a retirement and I get my disability and everything, I'm fortunate that I don't have to work. I was working at Lowe's because I was bored. I went and did this job, so I'm hoping that when this winds down, I can go back to my part-time Lowe's lawn and garden job and just being a retiree. That's my hope. But yeah, this is going on the record was a was a decision that I knew was going to grind me, because I knew they were going to come after me. I didn't know how, but I knew that they would, especially like with the, oh, you were fired. Like people need to wake up and look at every person that's come out against GHF. Remember, there have been anonymous sources that have come out. There was a Zelos article, there was an AP article. There's been other things where people have come out, and GHF's response to all of it is always, well, that was just a disgruntled employee that we fired. So I'm just the next disgruntled employee that was fired by them. But because I put a face to it, they can attack me with lies, like to say that I was arrested for domestic violence and my wife and this and that. My wife and I have been married for 17 years. Like that
married.
If I was arrested for that, I wouldn't have been in the army with a top secret security clearance. Like, just put two and two together. Like,
Glenn Greenwald had a great interview with a journalist who debunked that also and proved like it was a fake. They had fake photos of you, and they did all their
it's just and I get it, and it from a personal level in terms of what those people think of me, it doesn't bother me, but it bothers me in terms of just it's a grind. It keeps me up at night. But I think that this is an important thing that the world needs to know. And are there other important things in the world needs to know? Sure there are. This is the thing that I can happen to speak about, because I can say it with conviction, because I'd be glad to stand in the fray and take all the insults in the world, and people call me a liar, and people say I'm dumb, and people say that I'm this and that. And I will stand on the truth because I've seen it. I have seen it. I have seen it. I have touched it. I have smelled it. I have lived it. I know that I know the truth, and anybody that wants to say that I'm wrong or I'm a liar, so be it. Doesn't change the fact that I know what the truth is. It's like, someone, an object drops at 9.8 meters per second squared, and someone says, no, it doesn't. I'm like, well, it does. So if you think I'm dumb, fine, but that's physics. So I have seen it. Like when people say there's no starvation, I've seen it. When people say that people aren't getting shot at by indiscriminate warning shots and getting fired at into the crowd, I've seen it. If people tell me that we haven't used escalation of force that led to the death of innocent people, I've seen it. So if anybody wants to bring something to the table that's substantial, that's not a personal attack to try to discredit me and have a conversation, I'd love to. But the first thing I'm going to ask is, what did you experience when you were in Gaza at the safe distribution site? And they're going to say, well, I wasn't there. And I'm going to say, well, then step aside and let the adults have a conversation.
Right. By the way, someone, this is worth, you are highly decorated. You were wounded in action. You received a Purple Heart. You received a Bronze Star for valor in combat. They can't win. I mean, it is true. Like I said earlier, it's very different hearing me say something about, well, first of all, you were a witness. But even if I was a witness to something and I spoke out, it'd be very different. I don't have any military experience, and I don't have the decorations that you do.
Well, so that's why in their discrediting, they try to discredit. They're trying to discredit that. That's what they're targeting with fake photos and fake stuff to try to discredit all that. So, but the thing is that they can try. But I mean, I have my DD-214 military record. Like I have, like, if anybody wanted to ask me for it, it'd be like, here it is. But again, it's like trying to swat flies at a picnic. They can make up anything. I mean, like I said, next they can make up and say that, oh, here's a picture of Tony in Gaza with Hamas. I mean, they could say whatever they want.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, let me just read some super chats that are related to you. Okay. Thanks, Greg. Anthony, truth policy explanation is great. Oh wait, hold on one second. Let's see. You join. Super sticker. Thank you. Came a YouTube member. Thank you. Thanks, Greg. Anthony, truth policy explanation. Great. Ask Greg Anthony 10-7 IDF response to attack 3 to 6 hours. I'll get back to that. Colleen is a new member. Thank you so much. As much as I know this is BS, but can you ask Anthony respond to claim of texts to GHF praising them after being fired? Okay, we'll do that if you want. It's up to you if you want to respond to that. Okay. New member, thank you so much.
Yeah, I'll respond to
that. And then RIP Amir. Never forget this. For Amir, thank you so much. I'll donate. I will talk to some people about what a good organization to donate tonight's super chats is. Related to Gaza, obviously. Katie, thank you for everything you do. That's Roger Waters, I believe, but it's not really Roger Waters because but he does watch sometimes. James Holmes, right? This will be us in short order. We're all human until it's convenient to call us less than that. This is war now. Our leaders have allowed it. And then thank you for having a heart, and then the Palestine flag. So what were the two questions for you? Oh, it was about the texts, and it was about the IDF response to attack 3 to 6 hours on 10-7. I don't know if that's a reference to.
I'm not sure either. IDF response in 3 to 6 hours on
October 7th.
Meaning how long it took them to respond, or what? I don't know. I'm not.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'm not a military. I'm not an Israeli military IDF expert in terms of their policies and procedures for response. I don't know. For me to talk on that would just be ignorance.
Sure.
I don't know. So the text thing, and this is what I want to tell people, because the way they presented it there was that, days before he was praising. So those weren't texts. Those were, and I know it's semantics here. Those were signal chat messages that went out to a specific group within UG. So those didn't go to GHF. I didn't work for GHF. They weren't celebrating GHF. They weren't celebrating SRS. At our level within UG Solutions, we had a mobile security team and we had a static security team.
By the way, do you want to play? Sorry, should we bother playing either that guy, Johnny, what's his name, or the lawyer? Are either of those worth responding to?
Well, I mean, Johnny just went on Fox and said I'm a liar. I mean, that's okay.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Do you want to show the other? Do you want to debunk the actual video from the lawyer, or do you just want to explain it? It's up to you.
It's kind of long. Okay,
it is. Okay.
Yeah, it's like 14 minutes. But
oh my gosh.
But wow. I mean, so if y'all watch Tucker tomorrow, I did a 2-hour piece with I did a Tucker part 2, so that's coming out tomorrow. So I explain it in there too, but
So they basically, just to summarize, just for people who haven't watched it, right? They accuse you of.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah.
They accuse you of praising UG Solutions, right?
UG Solutions.
UG Solutions. Yeah, they accuse you of praising it after you resign. They accuse you of not having resigned but having been fired, and then they accuse you of threatening them. And their claim is that you were threatening them to rehire you, but that's not what happened. So now I've set it up. Okay, take it away.
Yeah, the firing piece. I've provided the termination letter, and I've asked on the air to them, if you fired me, show me my termination letter. I'd like to have it. I'd like to frame it. That would be a badge of honor. Like
somehow they don't. Yeah,
they don't have it. They didn't fire me. So with the praising piece, when we first got into Gaza, the UG Solutions, SRS, the guys, because remember, GHF is not a thing. There's no really except Johnny Moore. It's not a thing. UG Solutions on the ground in Gaza They did not have a PR team. They did not have a media team. They had no one to do media inquiry, social relations, answering stuff. I recognize that simply because my wife served as a public affairs officer in the Army for a career. So I was just attuned to it, like, hey, why don't you have anything for media? Why don't you have anything for this? So I was on the very first day of distribution, I was at a site and I took this video, and some people have seen it. It's of these young Palestinian men. You can probably find it on the internet if you want to look it up, but it's these guys and they're chanting and they're going, Trump, 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 thank you, Netanyahu. I wasn't seeking that. These guys were on the site and they're like, take a video of us, take a video of us. So I was like, okay, take a video of them. When I got back to the base in Kerim Shalom, the chief operations officer for UG Solutions, I was sitting there watching it with him. He was like, oh, you need to give me that. Give me a copy of that. So I did. So he sends it to Johnny Moore. Johnny Moore sends it to the president. The president watches it, and the president's like, I need more of that. So from that day forward, Tony Aguilar, who was just there as an independent contractor, got tasked in writing. I still have this in writing, that I was tasked to take video and pictures every day at every site. That's why I have so much pictures and videos. I'm not a journalist. I didn't intend. I was told to. Then on the very, very first day, our site was overrun. Like we were on site. It was pandemonium. We got overrun, and the guys, the mobile teams and the static teams, consider it, the men, the troops, so to speak, were very demoralized about that, and it was hurtful to see, that pain and that suffering amongst the population. And so I had taken a few photos that even in that mayhem, there was this little boy who had opened up a box, and there was on this particular day, because it was a different. We didn't have the GHF boxes yet. We saw these boxes that came from an organization called Rahman, and they had a Nutella in them. And this little boy had opened up this jar, and he had the Nutella, and he stuck his whole hand in it. He was like licking it off his fingers. And I took a picture of that, and you could see this joy and this happiness. So I sent that picture to all the guys, and I said, hey, today was rough, but you changed at least one life. Like, day by day, step by step, we're going to make a difference. Because I did believe in the mission. I didn't go in there as a hater. I went in there believing in the mission. And so I did that on the Signal chat to the guys. Well, the CEO guy, again, he was like, hey, can you do that every day? Take pictures, bring them to me, upload them into this cloud, into this Google Drive, and send the guys a note at the end of the day, because we want to keep, the guys need to know what they're doing and why it's important. So I was tasked to do that. That wasn't me praising GHF. That wasn't me praising SRS or even praising UG Solutions. That didn't go to the bosses. That was from me to the guys, my fellow contractors, a daily thing. It was called an impact report. I have all drafts of them from all the days I was there. I was tasked to do that. So when they show that and they say, oh, well, Mr. Aguilar said, well, you told me, you tasked me to do it. So they're disingenuous in what they're saying, because they tasked me to do that. And again, full transparency, in the beginning, when we were there, I believed in this. I believed, call me ignorant, call me stupid, call me uneducated and not knowing how humanitarian assistance works. I believed that this could work. I believed that this was going to work. Within, after days of being there and realizing that even if we were to operate at maximum capacity, there's only 1/8 of the demand of trucks that we would need that we purchased for this. This is not designed to work. Not only is it not going to work and going to fail, it was designed to fail. So the light bulb didn't go off for a while. It's not like I got there and I'm just like, bloop, I see everything now. Like, I'm human, So those things in praising the guys on the ground, not GHF, the guys on the ground, it's because I was tasked to do that.
Right.
So yeah, those were specifically, again, they didn't go up to big important people, or were sent down to my fellow contractors.
Sure. And then the threat, not the threat, the when you were writing them, hostile.
Yeah, so their insinuation of the gloves are off, or that I can be your worst enemy. Taken out of context from one of those is completely fabricated, but the other one with the I'll be your worst nightmare piece, taken out of context. On the day I terminated my contract, I told them on the 13th, here's my termination. I will come to work on the 4th. And I've provided this letter to the report. The reason reporters keep reporting on this is because I've provided the documents to them that they have then gone and back checked the metadata on. It's legitimate. So, so I said, here, I'm gonna
Johnny, what's his name again? They can come. He can come on the show. We'll interview him. Johnny, what's his
Johnny
name?
Moore.
Yeah.
Yeah, let him. Johnny Moore will only do Fox News, and he'll only do
really
it when his friend is there, and he won't answer any
literally.
questions.
Shannon Bream was like, "Yeah, we're friends."
We've been friends for a long time. It's like, okay, way to throw your unbiasedness out the window.
Yeah.
So, every interview that I've done with everybody I've done it with, it's the first time I've ever met them. Like, this is the first time we've met. Like, I'm not going on to shows where I know that they're gonna say, "Yeah, you're great." I'm just telling the truth. So, on the day I submitted my resignation on the 13th, and I said I'd work on the 14th. So I'm not just like, here you go, I'm out. Come back on the 14th. And I did. And they were very upset at me. And they called me, the head contractor guy came up and he's like, "What's this resignation crap?" And I was like, yeah, I submitted it yesterday to my boss, my boss's boss, because my boss was not there that day. He was like, "Why don't you want to work here anymore?" It's like, because I wrote it in my letter. I cannot be associated with the things that I've seen and what's going on here, and you aren't demonstrating any desire to change it. So to me, this is off the rails, and it's not getting back on the rails. And he called me all kinds of horrible coward, other expletives. So then I go into the office to get my belongings, my backpack and stuff, and I go in there, and there's another gentleman in there who works for the company. And he says, "Well, you're not supposed to be in here. You don't work here anymore." And I was like, "I'm just getting my stuff." So I'm getting my stuff, and my phone dings. It goes ding, and it's one of the contractors that's out at the Netzarim site, one of our employees. And he says, "You're not supposed to be communicating with anybody." I was like, "Well, he's communicating with me because we communicated through Signal." And I was like, "Until you just told me to leave, I was on duty." So I pick up my phone and he says, "Don't respond to him." And I was like, "I'm not going to respond to him. But I'm looking at it and seeing what he asks." I was like, "Do you want to read it? Do you want to respond to him?" And so when I said, "Do you want to respond to him?" this dude backhand slaps me across the face and knocks my floor to the phone and breaks it. And the conversation that I was having with the human resource officer in that text message back to UG Solutions, back at headquarters with human resources, not with anybody that was an employee or like a boss, I reported the assault. They said, "Well, he didn't hit you that hard, so it's not really that big of a deal." So I said, "Well, assault is assault." So I said, "We're going to figure this out before I leave. If not, when I get home, I'm filing criminal charges." And that's just how it's going to be. We can discuss this here. We can sit down as adults and we can have a conversation. We can clear the air and we can, be mature, take accountability. If you're going to ignore it, then when I get home, I'm going to press criminal charges. So though your worst nightmare thing had nothing to do with me working for them or wanting to work for them or ever wanting to work for them again.
Yeah.
I would not ever work for them again.
Yeah. They're good. They're creative, right? I mean, you can make a real collage of text from different interactions. Imagine how you can edit it together.
Well, what I would ask people out there to realize is that imagine if somebody, let's say somebody was accusing you of something. Let's just put that out there. Someone's accusing you of something heinous. And they come at you with all kinds of, "We got this from here, we got that from here, we got this. Things don't look right, things don't." And then they don't tell you who said it. Because remember, in all the documents they provided, they were all blacked out, right? We're not going to tell you who said it. We're not going to tell you where we got it. We're just going to put it together in this subjective look. We're going to tell people we're not going to answer any questions. We're not going to address it anyway. And we're going to put it out there and that's it. Would anybody in those shoes feel that that's a fair shake? But if they want to discredit me, if I'm the sacrifice, fine. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't, my dog's still going to jump up and lick me when I come home. My kid's still going to love me. My family's still going to love me. It doesn't bother me other than the fact that people that if people believe it, what I would ask is, don't throw stones when we live in glass houses.
Yeah. And you're not at home now, right? For safety reasons?
My family is not. My family is. I moved them far out west. I'm back in North Carolina because I've been bouncing back between here and DC so much that I'm just kind of mobile anyway.
And what kind of threat? What made you do that? Threats or?
A
Anticipation of threats or
what's the word I'm looking for without getting myself in more targeted? Associates of people that are business owners in the company sent people to give me a message, and they threatened my wife and my son too. So, yeah,
what like in person they came or
yeah, they approached them and surrounded them in the parking lot at a Walmart.
and what they say?
Tell your husband to shut the F up, or if not, then there's going to be consequences.
Wow.
They talked to me too and said to, stop talking to the media, stop talking to the press.
Where did they confront you?
Which, I mean, the way I see it is that if they're putting this much energy to discredit me and get me to shut up, come on, people. Like,
Of course. Yeah.
If they're taking all of this effort and energy to try to shut me up, then there's something there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And what can I ask where they confronted you? I mean, don't tell me anything that's going to get you in trouble, but like, I'm
no,
just
kind of on
the
the way home, I had been followed and then confronted in the near the entrance of my neighborhood. That I was kind of like blocked in and then talked to and told to stop talking.
Wow. Sorry. Well, that's awful. That's really scary.
Yeah, but I mean, had all this come out and they didn't respond at all, then people would be like, oh, well, this is not
There's something
the
wrong.
fact that they've now hired lawyers, they've now hired a PR firm, they've now done all these things to they dedicated an entire press conference in their PR firm to come after me. If what I said was uncredible and there's no evidence there, then why even bother? Why even worry?
And how has your
They're
wife?
worried. They're going to do everything they can to discredit me because the end state of this is that it's recognized that war crimes were committed.
Right.
That's a pretty serious offense.
Right. And it's, I mean, again, it's like really messed up because this isn't your fault, obviously, but like Palestinian human rights organizations, Palestinian witnesses talk about this, and then they're so dehumanized, like consciously or unconsciously, that they're Edward Said. I think it's a permission to narrate that Palestinians don't have the permission to narrate. So this is kind of another example of that. I'm glad that you are making the rounds. I'm angry that other people were not believed.
I am too.
Yeah.
I fully recognize that I am not saying anything that others have not been saying for a long time. I fully recognize that. Believe me, I recognize that. I'm not coming to this and being like, oh, I'm the first one to discover this.
Right.
Oh, hell no. No. People have been saying this for a long time and have been discredited with they're Hamas or
exactly.
They don't know what they're talking about or they have an agenda. So
or they're anti-Semites.
Or they're anti-Semites. It's very difficult to do that in my case. So they want to layer me with that by saying, well, he's not credible. So they have to make stuff up to make me not credible.
Right. Right. I mean, yeah, because unfortunately for them, you're not. It would be really convenient for them if you were like Arab American or Muslim, because then they would just be able to totally, smear you by that racist metric that they use all the time, either overtly or through insinuation. But, and last thing, I'm going to end. How about a hard question and then a nice comment? How's that?
Fair.
Okay. In retrospect, ask Anthony what he was actually fighting for when he was in uniform for the U.S. Was it freedom and justice, or was it for empire?
As I said before, like when I raised my right hand to join the army and support and defend the Constitution, call me an idealist. I believe that. I felt that. When I first deployed to Iraq, I believed we're liberating the people of Iraq from this tyranny and we're bringing them democracy. And then over the years, I started to realize that that's not the case. And I wouldn't go far as to say that I feel like, looking back, was it empire or modern colonialism? What I think is that in the after 9/11, that the United States became so intent on this revenge tour, so to speak, that that we started to go into when you go into a military campaign without a political end state, or you go into a military campaign without an understanding of what your objective is, which is why Gaza scares me so much, is because Israel doesn't have an objective other than annihilation. The reason they won't state a political objective or an objective is because they're only intent upon annihilation. So for me, what I learned over the years and years and years and years of being in the military is that that thought of, like, going overseas to defend the homeland, to, if I don't fight here, then they'll fight us at home. I believe those things. If we're not here in Iraq fighting them, they're going to
Don't
fight us
them
on
over there. They're right.
Yeah, if we don't fight them over there, they're going to fight us back home. Like, yeah, I believed in that. And years and years and years, I realized that that we have stumbled into wars that we don't know how to get our way out of, because we stumbled into those wars without a clear objective or a reason other than just anger at the time. And that's a dangerous thing. So would I say empire? I don't know. I don't have enough, like, information or, like, enough to see, like, is that the intent? What I do know and what I can say with confidence is that I feel that as a nation, we've somewhat we've stumbled our way into wars that we don't know how to get our way out. And staying is the only thing that we can do, because if we leave, then we have a situation like with Afghanistan, where it's like, how and when do you leave? And you get yourself into a situation that you can't, or when you do, it falls apart. So have I changed my opinion in terms of deploying to places and going places and thinking that it's all about apple pie, mom, the American flag, and fighting over here so we don't fight over there? I don't believe that anymore. Do I believe that it's necessarily this incipient empire building cabal? Not necessarily.
We'll have to. Well,
Not rooting. I'm not rooting that out.
Yeah, you're not ruling it out. Yeah. When did you have that aha moment that it wasn't about apple pie, or was it gradual?
I think the second time, my second deployment to Afghanistan, and again, Iraq, Afghanistan, different environments, but it's still kind of you'll understand when I talk about it. We were in Afghanistan. We were doing village stability operations, and in village stability operations for special operations, we the special operations detachments like actually lived in the local villages with locals to raise these militia forces, kind of like the strategic Hamlet program in Vietnam. And this realization of, we're here because you want us to be here. We're here for you. And they're like, well, we don't want you here. It's like, well, you do want us here. You just don't know it. And they're like, no, we don't want you here. Like, if you weren't here, they wouldn't be attacking us. So can you leave? Like, no, we're gonna create a militia force because that's what we were told to do. And, like, you do these assessments and you go back to the command and you say, hey, I don't think this is the right thing that we should be doing. They don't want us there. No, they want you there. No, I talked to the guy. He was like, they want us to leave. They said that we're just causing problems for them. Nope, they don't know what's good for them. They want you there. We're going to do this. And I was like, who are we doing this for? Like, what are we doing? And I realized in a lot of cases, because we went into situations with this domination, this domineering attitude of we know better, this arrogance of we're going to fix everything, that we made things, in some cases, we made things much worse. And it was in moments like that I saw over and over again that I actually started to ask myself, like, what's our objective? What's the, mission creep is a real thing. When you go and you say, hey, I'm gonna go down to the kitchen to pour myself a glass of water, and you get distracted, and before you know it, you're baking a cake. Mission creep. Like, it's like, I'm going in to do this. Oh, what's that? Oh, what's that? Oh, and that's what we did in Afghanistan. It just every year was like, what's that? What's that? To the tune of millions and billions of dollars and a lot of lives. And I blame leadership for that. I blame the administration. I blame the leaders that allowed that to happen. And it's sad. I shouldn't say it's sad. It's disappointing to know that I gave my entire adult professional life to this, but in terms of the values and uniform and the soldiers that I led and the relationships that I had and the experiences that I had and the people that I worked with, I think there's some great Americans that are trying to do good things that you don't always know you don't always know what you're getting yourself into until you're in it. And then when you're in it, and you really don't, it's like, how do I get out of it?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's like the sunken, what is it? The sunken costs.
Sunk cost theory, where,
Yeah.
you know, you've paid into something for so long,
Right,
and you
yeah.
realize that it's never going to pay off, but
Yeah.
you keep doing it because I've put so much into it that I can't walk
Yeah.
away now.
Right.
Yeah.
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 Wow. Well, this has been so amazing. So this is one comment is thank you for an amazing show, and thanks to Anthony and Mr. Smalls. And then Brad sent me a comment that said, this has been one of Katie's best episodes ever. So that's thanks to you.
Yeah,
Well, I want to
and
say thanks to Chris too. That's the first time I've met
Yeah,
Chris, and
Chris and you. Yeah, you
lot
and
of
Chris.
of respect for
And Greg.
Chris and what he does, and Greg, everybody
Yeah.
that I met today, and
Yeah.
because when you told me that Chris was going to be on before me, I went to read his bio and impressed with his passion
Yeah.
and what he does, and I'm always available if you
Yeah,
want to do a
definitely.
part 2 or another panel
Yeah.
or anything. I'm always available.
Yeah. I would
Yeah.
love to have you on with Mike Preisner.
Oh, yeah.
From,
Okay.
Yeah.
But I was just going to thank you on screen, Anthony, so much. And just to kind of half kidding also say that normally when I heard you say all of the allegations of you being this, you being that, under normal circumstances, I would probably be in the background trying to cobble together an idea in Photoshop to like make you the third gunman on the grassy knoll or something to show. But I was so fixed on everything that you were saying that I did not do that.
Yeah.
So thank you so very much.
Some of it's just laughable. Like some guy did a podcast saying that I beat my wife and we're divorced and I'm married to somebody else now. My wife and I are watching it together, and she was like, "Did you marry somebody else that I didn't know about?" Like we've been married for 17 years. Like it's so outlandishly stupid. It's like, it's like, what? Like,
Can I ask one more question? I'm so sorry. One more question.
Yeah.
How old are your kids, and have you told them, like, when they move, like when you move them elsewhere, or after were they with your wife when she was threatened?
Yeah. Well, yeah, they were. And it was. Yeah. So timing just worked out well that it's summer and it was a good opportunity to go vacation. So they're having a great time. They're
Okay, because I was going to ask you.
This is transparent to them, and
yeah, I was going to ask you if you had.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, did you explain to them? Well, your dad said something was like telling the truth about bad guy. Like I don't know how old they are, but did you have to explain to them what happened, or no? Was that not relevant because they were just
honestly they weren't, like when the threats were made and they came up to my wife and said that to her. They were in the back watching tablets, and they were just they didn't even really, they don't pay attention to much unless it's like Roblox or Minecraft.
Yeah, right.
So it was but in terms of that, like this is why this is also important to me as a human being, as a father, is that years from now, when my children are grown, they're going to see this in the history books. They're going to look back and they're going to see this. And they're going to remember that dad was there, because they know that I was gone for, 46, 45, 44 days. And they're going to look back and they're going to say, "You were there, right?" Yeah. Why didn't you do anything? Why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you? Why? And I don't mean they're going to say that in an accusatory way. They're going to ask in an inquisitive way, like, "Oh, Dad, when all this was going on, like throughout our whole lives, you've always told us to stand up for what's right and tell the truth and be honorable. Like, why didn't you there? Like, what was different?" You have to be an example. I can't be an example to my family and to my children and to myself and then not follow through with my values. I can't. Had I not seen what I saw, then of course maybe I'm not as driven to say something about it. But from seeing what I saw and knowing what I know, I can't sit back and do nothing. And I can't do it off the record. To do this anonymously off the record gives it no life. No one believes someone that's anonymous because they're not putting skin in the game. So when putting skin in the game, like I told my wife and the family, I was like, "Hey, things are going to come and it's going to be," she was like, "I know, but we need to do this." So they can come at me whatever they want. My so everybody knows out there, I am still happily married, going on 17 years. I am my awards and decorations that I have that I've earned, I am proud of. There are fake images and things that people have made to try to discredit me, because that's all that they can. You notice they're not talking about the substance. So
Right, of course.
just take it with a grain of salt to know that if I was all of those things that they say, how I would have been kicked out of the army. They don't let lieutenant colonels stay
Right.
in the army that do that.
Right.
Like, doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, thank you so much. I'm really, really so grateful, and it's really like inspiring to see you start to not just question what you were doing there or what was being done and speak out against it, but I feel like you're actually really open to, like, just you're open to being challenged in a way that's really
oh yeah,
I don't know. You
yeah,
don't see a lot. Like you don't see a lot. So
no, I think challenging, like even like with Johnny Moore, and like challenging my approach, like, hey Johnny, this is what I think. We're not delivering this much food. We're not doing this. We're not doing this. Like, what do you say? Like, what can, change my mind? And I think that it's important to have informed debate, that we challenge opinions and we challenge ideas. I've learned a lot tonight. Like, talking to you, I thought about things in ways that I hadn't thought about before. And I think that's what every human being should do in life, is that if you go through life with just your own opinions and your own viewpoints and don't appreciate that of others, and sometimes consider what other people may think or see, then you're really robbing yourself of an opportunity of living a full life.
yeah. Well, thank you so much for speaking out. Really appreciate
Well, thank
it.
you. And I'm always available. You've got my contact info.
Let's
So
definitely be in touch. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm
Good
gonna.
night,
And I
everybody.
already have an idea about a really cool discussion. We can try to do it in person, even with you
Sure.
and some other. Yeah.
I'm down for that.
Awesome.
Down
Thank
for
you
that.
so
Okay.
much.
You be safe. Take
Safe.
care.
Thanks, yeah.
And thank you.
And send me a photo of your dog. You want to see my dog? You want to see my dog?
I've got two. I'll send you a picture of them.
You want to see mine? You want me to grab him?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah. Grab him.
Fox, come here. You gotta be a friend.
Oh.
Have you ever seen such a cute little ragamuffin
Oh,
monster?
the cutest ever.
Yeah, he's a really good underbite too. Bucky, say hi.
Yes. I love that.
He's a rescue. Yeah.
Both of ours are rescues also. We won't do
Oh,
anything
great.
but rescues.
Yeah.
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 We have two rescues that they couldn't be more different. One's a yellow lab, goofy, and one's an old English bulldog, big underbite, like
Oh,
that.
nice. Yeah. I like him. Yeah.
Just a goofball. They're funny.
Yeah. They're so cute. Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
We've got two.
yeah. So send me the photos. We'll put them in. We'll make a short out of this.
I
about the
will.
dog
I'll
thing.
send you the pictures of the two of them.
Yeah, I have an image, a screenshot I'll share with you of Mike Gravel. Remember the Senator Mike Gravel of from Alaska?
Oh yes.
There's a cute photo I just found in my phone. I'm holding my parents' dog, Bodie. This is my dog, our dog, Bucky.
Yeah.
But I'm holding Bodie and they're holding their dog. So yeah. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's great. I'll send you pictures of the dogs.
Great. Thank you so
You
much.
have a great night. Stay safe, and thank you for everything you do, and stay in touch.
Thank you.
I'm here.
Okay, great. We definitely will. Bye. Wow, that was great. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much to Chris Smalls, to Anthony Aguilar, to Greg Stoker. It's funny, Brad showed me a text that was like, I was almost going to say this when I asked him about the Empire. I was almost going to say, and he's like, I don't know. I was like, don't worry. By the end of the next interview that we do, you'll be on board. And then Brad right after showed me a comment. I don't know where it is, or else I'll highlight it. But it was like, what was it? Like, Anthony's going to be a socialist by the second interview he does with Katie? Or Katie's going to turn a socialist? Yeah. Inshallah. Ojalá. Thank you guys. This was amazing. We're going to not paywall anything. If it's down at all, it'll be because, well, I shouldn't say that. Yeah, we're not going to paywall anything. And because this is way too important. But that's why you should definitely support us on Patreon, because we're not paywalling this one. but yeah, this was really important, and we will see you next week. Anything else I need to say, Brad? Please do support the show at patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Again, even if you just do $1 a month, that $1 a month, that helps us.
And
Yeah, Brad.
do you want us? I believe we have one more thing to
Yeah,
play.
should we play that now? What do you think?
It is entirely.
I mean, we could play it and then just what do you think? We could play it. We could say goodbye and it'll just end there. What do you think?
In for a penny, in for a pound. We can play it and then come back and say goodnight.
All right, sure. It's very short, right?
It's about 8 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, so let me do an intro so that we can clip it.
Okay.
Okay, great. So we are going to play an interview that I did with Lily Greenberg Call. Wait, let me just actually. All right, 1 second. Let me skip the dates. No, I'll just say the days of the week. That's fine. All right. We are about to play an interview that I did with Lily Greenberg Call. Lily is the first and only Jewish political Biden appointee to resign over the Gaza genocide. And I interviewed her on Monday. And then Monday night, she and 40 other Jewish people were arrested protesting the starvation siege of Gaza, Israel's starvation siege of Gaza. They're part of the protest was led by If Not Now, which is a Jewish organization that is does stuff for Palestine, speaks out against the genocide, speaks out against the occupation. And so we're going to watch the interview that I did with Lily, and then you'll see some footage of her being arrested. I was at this protest. I did not get arrested, but I did do some Instagram living. I did some video of it. And Lily speaks to me briefly in this video, and as does potentially, depending on what's in it, a rabbi. And I think that's all I need to say, right, Brad? Yeah. Okay. So, and the protest was held at Columbus Circle, and then the arrests were made in front of the Trump Hotel in Manhattan. Okay, here we go.
What are you doing here? Why are you doing this? Protesting the intentional starvation of 2 million people in Gaza in the name of the Jewish people with the backing of the U.S. government. I was the first Jewish official, the only Jewish official to resign from the Biden administration to protest at this genocide. I urge every Jewish person to be in the streets, protesting this, getting arrested, taking as much risk as you can.
Thank you. And you?
Every life is a universe. I'm a rabbi for ceasefire who believes we need to end the starvation in Gaza. It's a Jewish value to protect life at all costs.
As you just saw, there are hundreds of Jews gathered at Columbus Circle, mobilizing as they reject the U.S.'s continued support for Israeli starvation policies. Joining me is one of tonight's rally speakers, Lily Greenberg Call. Welcome, Lily.
Thanks for having me, Katie.
Of course. So before we get into a discussion about where we are today politically, can you just share with people why this issue is important to you, and also how you responded to this issue when you were part of the Biden administration?
Yeah, of course. So I am a former appointee in the Biden-Harris administration. I'm also an American Jew, and I grew up in a very, very involved in Jewish community. I'm from Southern California. I went to day school. I went to camp. I did all of that, and I also have a lot of close Israeli friends and family, and so was very both personally and politically connected to Israel in my life growing up here. And because of that, I got involved with pro-Israel advocacy very young, throughout high school and college. And it was a very natural thing for me to do as someone who was interested in politics and interested in social justice, honestly, and interested in, fighting back against anti-Semitism. And I was lucky to have a lot of opportunities as I got older, as I went to school, as I started getting involved in other movement work and human rights work, to unlearn some of the things that I had been taught about Israel, and to really learn a fuller story of what Israel means for Palestinians and the reality of apartheid and occupation on the ground. And so I feel very there's a lot of people that I love and care about, Israelis and Palestinians. And I also think that as an American, we are particularly implicated in this genocide. And when I was working in the Biden-Harris administration, my work wasn't around foreign policy at all. I had been a campaign staffer. I was working at the Department of Interior, but once October 7th happened, it became very clear to me that the president was, that our policy on our unconditional support for Israel's war crimes was unacceptable, and that the president himself was really using Jewish safety as a way to justify continued support for and weapons for and diplomatic support for Israel in this time. And so I decided to resign just over a year ago in May of 2024 and resign publicly. I felt that it was, my obligation to do so, and particularly my obligation as a Jewish appointee to be very clear about where I stood, and to kind of reset some of the narrative about the necessity of these crimes for Jewish safety and even for Israeli safety. And so now, here we are, almost 2 years into this phase of the genocide, and we're seeing intentional man-made mass starvation in Gaza, and finally, some level of kind of waking up amongst, I would say, mainstream Jewish community and, the American political media narrative overall. And I think, that's why there's going to be so many of us gathered in Columbus Circle today to as visibly as Jews and allies, take a stand against this.
So as someone who's worked on the inside, what policy changes need to happen so that Israel's starvation policy can be ended? Or is that not going to happen and we just have to get aid in?
I think, right now, aid and medical care and, all of the things that people are saying, it's not just food, right? People need food and all of these. If they're just given food right now, that actually won't be enough to save people's lives. That I think just needs to be the immediate priority. But the continuing to have unconditional military aid for Israel allows them to have impunity when it comes to this. And even if there is a short, a ceasefire or a short-term ceasefire and an aid corridor is opened up, there's nothing to say that this won't continue, right? And it won't just the cycle will continue again and again. So I think I think there should be a real pause on aid of any kind to Israel, military, any kind of aid, until, the thing is right now too, Israel has broken conditions that it should be following to receive U.S. military assistance.
Right.
There are rules. There are conditions. Exactly. Yes. That almost every other country has to follow. And of course we can pick and choose when we want to enforce those, but it's very clear, right? That that's the thing, is that this isn't a policy issue. The protocol is there, the outline is there. We know what we can do to fix this. It's a political issue, and it's an incentive issue. And so that's where right. We need to shift that incentive for people in power so that they know that voters will hold them accountable, and that the money that they receive from the pro-Israel lobby is not going to be enough to keep them in office. And we need to make that money just as toxic as anything else, the NRA money or big oil money, right? If you're a Democrat, you should not be able to accept AIPAC money. But unfortunately, they can. And that's how a lot of right-wing money ends up in democratic politics, through crypto and oil money. And all those people funnel their money into the pro-Israel lobby because they know they can't get it in there anywhere else.
So what needs to happen?
The Democratic base needs to show up for people. We lost some of those folks in Congress last year, right? Like Jamal Bowman and Cori Bush, but needs to show up for people who are either running or electeds already, who refuse to take AIPAC money, and who the folks who have introduced the Block the Bombs Act, and the people who voted for Bernie Sanders JRD. People need to show up for them financially. They also just need to show up for them and organize for them, and they need to get their communities involved and make sure that these people are protected. And I don't think there's a world where we raise the amount of money that AIPAC can bring in and that the right can bring in. They have, especially now that there's an alliance with crypto, they have buckets of money. But I don't think we need that amount of, we saw with the Zoran race in New York, you don't need to be able to outspend these people. You need to run a campaign that speaks to people, that actually addresses the issues that they care about, that is honest and authentic, because voters know when they're being bullshitted. They know when they're being when they're being gaslit. I think people can feel that. They might not understand all of the like political strategy behind something or the like policy wonky stuff, but they can know when. I've had people tell me, you know, knocking doors, like, at least with Republicans, I know what I'm getting myself into, and Democrats are kind of hypocrites, and people feel that. But you know, you cannot be a party of human rights or say that you are, and then, or a party that is anti-authoritarian, that is anti-fascist, that is trying to fight fascism here at home, and then fund it and enable it abroad. It doesn't make sense. It is completely morally unclear to people, and I think if there is any time for AIPAC to become toxic within the Democratic Party, it is now. It is 2026 and 2028.
And that was Lily Greenberg Call, who's wonderful. And it was extremely inspiring to see those people getting arrested at the protest. And there were a lot of great things that were said during the protest, and, you know, basically that everyone needs to risk more, and but like proportionate. So if you're not a you know, a citizen, don't get arrested. But everyone needs to do more than is comfortable right now. And I also ran into Murad, who is from the New York Immigrant Coalition, who we interviewed last week. What else? Oh, I ran into the great Palestinian Gaza-based reporter and photographer Motaz. And yeah, it was great. Also want to thank everyone so much for coming to the show. And, you know, I don't want to get into a big debate tonight because I have to go to sleep. Someone said something about the Talmud. What do people expect because the Talmud is so bad? I am not religious at all. I do not practice Judaism. Oh, by the way, stand by for a Piers Morgan appearance coming up soon. But where we debate Judaism and Jewishness in Israel. But I really think it's important to remember that the fathers of political Zionism were atheists. It had nothing to do with the Talmud and what they were doing. In fact, they really turned their back on religion because they saw religion as part of the exiled Jewish community that they had so much contempt for. There is great stuff in every religious book, I would say. There's great stuff in the Quran, the Old Testament, the New Testament, the Torah, the New Testament, and there's also problematic stuff. And so that is not why people do what they do. I mean, we've seen people use the scripture to do terrible stuff, amazing stuff. Martin Luther King and the Crusades, the rabbi who said every life is a universe, versus, you know, any Israeli politician. So I think we shouldn't really fall for this. It's because of the Talmud narrative. I just think it's ahistorical more than anything else. And again, as a secular person, I have no skin in the game. I don't have any. I'm interested in how people use religion for good as opposed to using it for bad. And I'm very moved by people like that rabbi. Okay, I'll get off my high horse. But Brad's giving me the thumbs up, like, get off already, Katie, go to bed. All right. That was great. Thank you so much to everyone. And I will see you next week. And yeah. Bye everyone. Thanks, Brad. Oops. Bye everyone. Thanks, Brad. Thanks, Andrew.
Wow, did I screw that up? I'm sorry.
That's okay. Thanks, Brad. Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Phantom Fanta for the clip. Thanks, Nate, for the research. And thank you to our guests. See you next week.
Okay, calm down.